Good evening. Thank you for your patience while we dealt with the light issue. At this time, I'd like to call the August 14th meeting of the Caroline County Board of Supervisors to order. We have with us this evening Mr. Floyd Thomas, Mr. Jeff Black, Mr. Jeff Seeley, Mr. Clay Forehand, and I am Nancy Long. We will start this evening with invocation led by Mr. Seeley, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Heavenly Father, guide us all through the journey as we do the business for the county. Bless all those overseas in harm's way, protecting the rights of all of us so that we have the right to assemble like we do this evening. Guide us in our ability to make the right decisions for the county and to guide all the citizens in a great and prosperous way. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Do we have any opening board comments this evening? Anyone? Mr. Forehand.
Just one quick comment. I'd like to thank VDOT. They refreshed and added danger turning vehicle signs on Route 1 approaching Lake Caroline Drive. That was requested by the Transportation Committee of Lake Caroline, and they were installed about 10 days ago. So I wanted to express my appreciation for their prompt response on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Thomas?
I just wanted to say I attended the National Night Out last week with the sheriff and all the folks at the Belmont subdivision, and it was a great event. I think we should have a lot more of those. That was it. Thank you.
Mr. Black?
Yeah, just a couple things. I had the opportunity over the past weekend to participate in the YMCA's Bright Beginnings program, where they shop with kids who need school supplies. Hats off to Mr. Gehring and the leader of the YMCA for that program. It's an awesome program that exists in the county, and maybe we can consider, I think, a donation, considering these are all county employees, for next year, possibly in the budget. We can talk about that a little bit later on. Over the past month, we did have a meeting with Comcast. They showed up for the first meeting as far as places to extend possible service in Caroline, and then they canceled the second. So it's sometimes a bit frustrating, to say the least. I also want to kind of reiterate something what Mr. Forehand said. VDOT came out, County Line, every time we get heavy rains, County Line Church's road is getting flooded, and VDOT has come out and worked with us. Mr. Whiteman's been heavily involved as well as trying to get that situation rectified as best we can. That's all. Thank you.
Mr. Seeley?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We had a national night out in Bowling Green also, and for those who haven't seen sort of the online videos that some people took, I understand the Sheriff's Office has a video for the Officers Challenge for lip syncing, and we had probably 40 people dancing and singing with the Sheriff, I will have you note, so the video will be worth watching. I was there, many others. It was a great night. Oh yeah, I danced. We all did. Even the sheriff did. So again, we had a great turnout in Bowling Green, probably triple the number of folks that we generally have. My thanks to Bethel Church that actually ran their van service to actually bring folks that might have not otherwise come. My second is I have talked to VDOT extensively about Route 2 and the spray-on sealer that's going on Route 2. It is not a resurface. It is sealing the road. There have been a number of issues from folks that I've heard from. I've actually had the VDOT resident engineer out. We've talked about it. They've ridden the road. Anybody who has any questions or comments or concerns should call the VDOT hotline, and the resident engineer will give you a call. We had a number of people that emailed Kyle Bates is his name. He is the acting resident engineer where they thought there were spots where cars actually got pulled across the center line. So they have been out there checking all those where people have reported them. So if anybody has an issue, please call the VDOT hotline, the road line, and they will get back with you. I called them on Saturday. They called me first thing Monday morning, and they've been out a couple of times since. My last comment is for fellow board members. We passed a resolution against towers that were going to be put up for without any building permits and could be built during the General Assembly time. And that bill did pass, and in talking to the state senators that were actually behind it, they said they were doing that in advance of federal legislation that was coming, and now there's actually a Senate Bill 3157 that would allow any builder to build a tower for 5G anywhere they wanted. No building permits would be needed, and it would be up to the locality to actually manage what they do and how they do it. I think that at the next board meeting, we need to send a resolution to our two U.S. state senators to say that we are not in favor of this. This really will help the large localities that have 4G service. They're trying to push 5G. It talks about nothing for any rural communities and giving us any better connectivity. It's not going to help us, yet they'll be able to come through Caroline and put up 5G towers where they need them or want them, with no regard for the service for the rest of the folks that live here. So I think it's something we need to look at for our next board meeting.
Madam Chair, may I ask a question
Yes,
on
Mr.
that?
Thomas.
You're saying we ought to put that on our next board agenda to
Or we
discuss
could
it?
pass something, give staff the latitude to write something, but I think we need to respond to this like all the other thousands of localities that are going to be impacted that are going to get very little benefit from it.
Well, you just refreshed my memory on something, because I thought what we should do is look at waiving our fees for towers that were going to help the county. Now, those aren't necessarily tied together, but they are related.
They are related, but these will require no fees.
Right.
They can come in and put them up wherever they deem they need them.
And we wouldn't have a co-location spot like we have now.
Correct.
So we need to oppose that, and while we oppose that, offer anyone who wants to put up a tower who will help support the county that ability to do so.
Completely agree. This just caught my eye. It gives us
Thank you.
it gives us no control locally, and they'll come in and they'll pick where they want to put them. And again, when 5G gets replaced by something else, my other concern is what happens to those structures, who's responsible for them? Again, that ends up never being the question asked is what happens at the end of something. It's always, stop it at the beginning. It isn't going to necessarily help the majority of the citizens, but I'd also like to know what the plan is for the end of life for these as well. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Seeley. I wanted to say that I attended Caroline's Promise School distribution supplies that they held up at the high school. That was a lot of fun, a lot of community participation with a lot of different groups in the county, and hopefully that will grow every year. I got there at just a few minutes before starting time, and the line was already all the way down the sidewalk and around. People apparently have started standing in line about an hour ahead. So obviously it was a service that was needed, and I believe there was also a function over in Ladysmith and one other distribution for school supplies. So I want to thank the community for reaching out and helping our parents. I also attended the National Night Out down in Port Royal. We managed to squeeze it in between the storms. Got the grown up and had a good time, and then they were off again to the next place. I don't know how many runs Sheriff Lippa made, but he was busy all evening, and we appreciated him making a stop by. Want to wish our students and our parents a good year at school, and hope everyone does fine, and remind everyone to be mindful of the buses on the road this year. With that,
One more thing, Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr.
The
Seeley.
lines on Route 2, Mr. Thomas reminded me, the lines on Route 2 that are currently there are temporary. Those are not the permanent lines. we will get the thermal lines put back on, and the reflective markers are coming back as well. So as soon as they finish, the rest of that work will be done. They just need many days without rain.
Lots of luck there.
Lots of luck with that, right?
All right, that takes us to amendments to our agenda. One thing we do have is, did everyone see the addendum on your desk? And it was also emailed to you. Would you like to put that down as F under consent agendas?
So moved, Madam Chairman. Madam
I
Chair.
have a motion, and do I have a second?
I make the motion, we accept the agenda as
I make the
amended.
Second.
You made the, I'm sorry,
I
I'll
said so
second.
moved.
Okay.
But if
All
you
right.
want the motion, that's fine.
No, I just lost track of what was going on.
All right, so we're fine with that. Any other changes, additions? Hearing none. Do I have a motion that the agenda be accepted? As-
You
With
need
the
a vote.
addition of F?
We've got a motion and a second on the table. We just need a vote.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, so moved. So, does that bring us to Mr. Howard? Mr. Howard, you're up.
Good evening. Glad to be before you this evening, Madam Chair. Grateful to be here this evening. I was just going to give you a few
Tip
updates.
that microphone up a little bit,
Yeah.
Mr. Cole.
You're a little higher than most
You can
people that are
pull the
standing
whole
up there.
thing up, you know, so. Okay. All right. I'm privileged to come before you tonight to give you an update on the following. The Recreation Advisory Committee, the 30th year anniversary celebration plan for the county park and the summer camp program. The advisory committee has met on 8 separate occasions in 5 different locations of the county since we last met. I stand before you tonight to share with you that the aforementioned meetings and locations were executed under the town hall concept as recommended by the Board of Supervisors at our last meeting. The implementation of the concept did not generate public attendance at the meetings as hoped. However, it did provide awareness and understanding to the committee members of the need for public recreation facilities and opportunities in some of the meeting locations. The average attendance at the meetings were 4 out of the 9 members, which included Madison District Board of Supervisor Rep. Mr. Clay Forehand. During the span of the 8 meetings, there were 1 official resignation in which the vacancy was just recently filled. The most participatory district has been Port Royal and Reedy Church, with the least being Bowling Green. Although the average participation was less than 50%, the productivity of the committee remained positive. During the meetings, the agendas included some of the following topics: subsidized funding for summer camp participation, a community nature/bike trail, Lady Smith Community Center indoor and outdoor recreation facilities improvements, public recreation survey, marketing strategies for various districts, and restructuring of the soccer age divisions, park fields preservation, and the readjustments to our soccer age, to our soccer fields dimensions. And of course, the 30-year anniversary celebration of the county park. The park celebration is scheduled for Saturday, September 8th from 10 to 1 p.m. Invitations has been sent out to past and present Board of Supervisors, county administrators, parks and recreation directors, Department of Conservation, and the Virginia Parks and Recreation Society, etc. There will be activities, games, music, foods, and lots of fun for all. Finally, the summer camp program was held again at the Lady Smith Community Center and the Bowling Green Elementary School and served a total of 72 children between the ages of 5 and 12. To ensure all participants will have access to nutritious meals, Parks and Rec collaborated with Caroline's Promise to register and register for the summer meals program to be held at the 2 sites. However, Only the Bowling Green site was approved this past summer. We've gotten requests from parents and hopefully to extend the summer camp program along the way because the program ends 4 weeks prior to the reopening of schools. Are there any questions? Comments?
Any questions for Mr. Howard?
I do have one. And Mr. Howard, I'm sure I missed it, but the Special Olympic Soccer,
Challenge?
it happened already?
No, it's actually going to be held in October 27th.
Oh, okay, I thought it was in
It's
August, so now it's in October.
It's in October. It's always been in October.
Okay. Would you
It was normally the first Saturday in October, but they moved it to the last Saturday in October.
That's the one where there's different teams from all over?
That is correct.
Okay. Would you remind me, please, when it comes out?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Black?
Thank you, Chairman Long. I just want to thank you for the meeting over the summer. So it was kind of eye-opening. Any sort of updates you have as far as events? I see that you're trying to do a fall softball league now, which is nice. But any events, I mean, we can try to, if you would make sure that those are sent to all of us, so that way we could kind of push them out for you as well. I think sometimes the complaint with, when the article came out in the paper about the fire school that was through Parks and Rec and so forth, so many people thought that was awesome, and then so many people said, I didn't know about it. They thought that was a really cool program, the article that had kind of highlighted it, and then although so many people, I think you would have had, I don't know, a much higher participation, and I think next year's is going to be much bigger as well. Okay, so anything that you can do to kind of advertise and send to us would be huge.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nancy?
Yes, Mr. Seeley?
Fire school. So Donnell, Parks and Rec did fire school?
We've collaborated with Fire and Rescue.
Because I got a ton of people after it was over going, they didn't know about it and would love to send their kids. If we could put that out like 2 or 3 months ahead of time, I think you'd be overwhelmed with the participation. I think it's a fabulous idea. It gets kids at a young age interested in fire and rescue, and we're always looking for volunteers. You can never start too young. So if you could push that to us, even in February, even if you're not going to do it, because there are people all the time asking, when will that be done again? When will that be done again? Because the article made it. It just pushed everybody into that corner very quickly. So congratulations to Fire and Rescue and you on hugely successful program.
And success to the fire department. Also, my only comment would be, I agree, and I think it's a wonderful venue, but I think to really get the hands-on attention the children need, you may be looking at doing 2 or more, because I would think you would need to limit, because we have to keep our fire and rescue people available also. We can't split them in 2. So if we need to do 2, that's certainly a possibility also.
That event was, I think you coordinated with the Fire and Rescue Retention Committee on the volunteer side. I think they were the ones that had sort of collaborated in putting that program on. So it was not really put on by Parks and Rec. I think he worked with it. So I think to expand it or move to multiple locations, we're also got to certainly work through that volunteer committee that y'all have met with before, that's retention and recruitment. And so they were the leaders, and it was pretty much supported by volunteer and a little bit of career staff on the office side and stuff, but mainly volunteers were here, working with the kids during the week.
The 30th anniversary of the park, that's going to be in the paper and open to the public?
That is correct. We hope to, in addition to our soccer teams and all that, which is also, the event would start before our soccer season, so I'm anticipating getting all the soccer kids and their parents and everyone there on that particular day, so looking for a great time.
So there'll be information or sign-up tables
Absolutely.
there for people at that time?
Yes, we're putting the information out slowly. Banners will be placed up around the county, and hopefully either this week or as early as next week.
Right.
So
Very good.
that's what we are.
Any other questions for Mr. Howard?
I have one
Yes.
question of you. The town hall concept, with the Recreation Advisory Committee. I know when we talked about that at the last meeting, we were hoping that it would generate public attendance at our meetings. It did not do that. Is that something which you all prefer to continue to do that, or just set?
I like the idea personally of you not being in the same place for every meeting. That way, certain parents might have time to get out and at least listen in, even if you just get one or two. But I'm going to pass that over to Ms. Forehand because you were on the committee.
I was going to them anyway, so it really, I can see it both ways. I don't have a strong opinion either way, honestly.
So how about you, Mr. Howard? How do you feel?
It didn't generate, pretty much it didn't generate any public attendance, to be honest with you. The only public attendance were those who opened the building for us, and that was it.
Okay.
What's the real, I mean, why don't people want to be involved with Park and Rec in terms of what programs you do, but they're all involved in a program or two? Is that because folks have a singular focus? You know, my kid's in basketball, so I don't care about anything else? Or, I mean, why the lack of involvement?
I think that's one. I think that's a good reason. I really don't know for sure, but I would say this. I think it has a lot to do what is needed at the time. I'm seeing that with parents. They're asking, sometimes it's even after the fact, after the child has gotten in, kind of getting off track or whatever, my child needs something to do, then they begin to search. So, but I'm not sure exactly what that answer is. I think it's
I mean, you're on the committee. Do you have a reason what?
The biggest feedback that I get is it's not generally, it's generally their kids. That people are working, there's school activities, there's sports, I got the kids by myself tonight and I can't bring them to the meeting. So it's for the kids, but it's also the kids are a lot of times the limiting factor on attending these meetings.
Well, you can bring your kids to the meetings.
People do, but some people
Yeah.
aren't comfortable bringing their children to these meetings.
All right, the last thing is it an idea like 5 or 10 minutes before? Because I know the gym is crowded with parents, probably right now. Like 5 or 10 minutes before the game, somebody sits there and says, hey, this is a program we have. What do you guys think of this program? How do we make this program better? What else do you want? Or just flyers and questionnaires, surveys and things of the folks, because you got a captive audience. They're not going anywhere for hours, so.
No, it's good for, especially for nights when they're practicing. Game days might be a little more, we might not get the participation then, because of course they want to watch the children play. But for practices,
Yeah, but the game won't start until I get the questionnaires back.
Yeah, right.
I mean, come on. I need 2 more questionnaires, the game won't start. All right, well, but you got to do something, and we got to think outside the box to make sure we get people involved.
Mr. Black?
The other thing too, I'll be honest with you, maybe I'm not fully aware, but are these things pushed out as to when they are? Because a lot of times I don't know when they're taking place, let alone people in the public. So is that something that you could send to us like weeks in advance, say, hey, look, we can push out? I mean, so I like the idea of the town hall. I like the idea of you going to the different areas of the county. I just wish I knew more myself of when they were. So if you could send an email out saying, hey, we're having, or the schedule for where they're going to be, so that way we can post it and then kind of repost it. So that way people, if people don't show at that point, then there's nothing you can do. But I got to be honest with you, I haven't known when they are.
The dates were placed on the county website.
Right, and there's a lot of people, I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of people that don't go to the county website. I mean, they just, and whether that's fair or unfair, I understand what you're saying, but the more that we can push it out there, the better.
I agree with
All right, so I think the idea of the meeting is we like that it's in different areas, just in case somebody does want to come, but maybe we try it one more year?
Okay.
Does that sound like an idea?
I'm fine with that. And just because we're on TV and more people will see it, if someone has an interest in wrestling, I think we're still looking for a point person to start a new program in the county. So I put some stuff out. I don't know, I routed them to you. I don't know if anyone's called you, but
I did receive an email today from the wrestling coach, and he gave me some contacts, so I'll explore that and see what we can come out with that.
okay, super. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Howard.
My pleasure. Thank you.
That takes us to appointments. We have an appointment that needs to be filled in Mr. Sealy in my district for the Citizens Transportation Committee, and I'd like to nominate Kim Pogue to serve as a representative on the CTAG Committee.
Second?
Pogue. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Now, we also need someone to serve on the Net Advisory Committee, and first person came to my mind was Mr. Thomas. You've sort of been following this. Anybody else interested?
Do we know when they meet or where, Madam
Nope.
Chair?
I don't think they've gotten all that established, but it'd probably be east of here because the majority of that region is the Middle Peninsula. Most likely going to be, that or West Point or somewhere that way.
They have a golf course in Tappahannock. Okay. We have Mr. Thomas willing to serve on that committee. Anyone else interested? Having no one else jump up and volunteer, thank you, Mr. Thomas. We appreciate that.
You can nominate Reggie while he's not here.
Just said volunteer.
All right. We need a motion? All right. We need,
I make a motion, we nominate Mr. Thomas to the Pamunkey Advisory Committee.
I'll second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. All right. Moving along. That takes us to our consent agendas. Are there any changes to the consent agenda?
I have one quick question on D.
Madam Chair, I have a question on B, which is a smart scale project.
In D.
Can I make a motion, we approve A, C, E, and
Mine's
F?
just a quick question, so.
Oh, okay.
All right, can we just
Mr.
do the
Fincham?
quick questions?
The smart scale project, we turned in, that was due last week or Monday?
It
was
was,
last week.
it was due on the 8th, yes, sir.
Okay. Do you have a copy of that application for the board members to review? Because I know there was some discussion of which roads to include in addition to the ramp at 207.
Yes, sir, I can forward that to you all.
That's all I need. Okay, thank you. Madam Chair, B is okay with me, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, are you okay? We still following? All right. So, do I have a motion that the consent agenda be approved?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. We are too early for public comment.
Madam Chair, I'd like to recommend we go into closed session and see if we can't knock that out while it's early. And in an hour, we should be able to finish most of it, shouldn't we? Seven.
And I believe the Habitat people are here?
Yeah, we could do 7. That would save Mr. Tickle about 2 hours.
No, that's fine. I saw him. So I
You're
figured-
right.
I figured he was here and No, if you stay there, you're fine. You don't even have to say anything.
Yeah.
The less you talk, the faster we can get it done.
All right, so we're going to move to new business for 7, which is request for Habitat for Humanity.
And it was a relatively small amount, Madam Chair.
Yes, it was.
I think the benefit to the county is huge for the small investment.
And I'm gonna make a motion to approve as soon as I find it. It's $30,000.
Yes.
30,000.
Mr. Checkout?
Oh.
Just a quick question. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for considering our request. Appreciate it.
Just had a question. Do y'all own any lots that are currently that have county water and sewer available?
We do. In fact, we had to have 5 in order to qualify for this grant. So we have 5 lots that are all on the Dawn wastewater system down in Dawn in Caroline. So they're all zoned and ready to build.
Okay.
And then part of our land acquisition policy for year 2 in the 2-year grant cycle, our goal is to buy property that will be able to use county sewer, so we don't have to do septic systems.
Okay. That's very good. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I could, Mr. Tickle is going to get close to $2 million, between 1.5 and $2 million for these grants. And normal grants are 80-20. If that were the case, the county would be investing $400,000 on a grant. So I would move that we appropriate $30,000, which is what he's requesting, so he can satisfy these grant applications.
Second.
Yeah, I think we are all on the same boat. This is a wonderful grant that you found for us, so I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Can I just one?
Yes. Mr.
Were you, just a quick question I know you were working on some, I think this is excellent too, and I'm going to vote. Were you able to secure any of the private funding that you were looking for?
I was able to get $5,500 through like the Builders Association. FAR donated $3,000 as well, so we were able to secure some outside funding.
So do you still need the full 30 or?
It would certainly make life a lot
easier.
easier, I will say that.
Okay, that's fine.
But we
I
will work with whatever we can get.
Okay.
I have a motion and a second.
We're appropriating not to exceed $30,000.
Exactly. A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, so moved. Thank you and good luck. All right, now we're going to slip over to 5,
No, I was going to go to closed session.
closed session. Okay. All right.
Somebody have the sheet ready?
We are going to go into closed session. We will be
Hard to read, Clay.
back here as soon as possible. In the meantime, I invite everyone, one of our new pieces of fire equipment is outside, so please go and look and enjoy and see where your tax money is being spent. We will be out there also as soon as we finish our closed session.
I move that this board convene in closed session pursuant to 1, the acquisition of real estate, prospective business, and investment of public funds, exemptions of section 2.2-3711, A3, A5, and A6 of the Code of Virginia to discuss a potential economic development expansion project in the county about which no previous public announcement has been made, and which would involve the acquisition of real property and investment of public funds. Also, the personnel exemption of section 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia to discuss a personnel matter, and the consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff exemptions of section 2.2-3711A7 and A8 of the Code of Virginia to discuss specific legal matters related to certain violations of the zoning ordinance and potential litigation related thereto. Get a motion for that, please.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, so moved. We will be back as soon as we can, everyone. We are in closed session. Let's come out.
Madam Chair, I move that the Caroline County Board of Supervisors certify that to the best of each board member's knowledge, only those public business matters lawfully exempt from the opening meeting by Virginia law were discussed in closed meeting to which this certification applies, and only such business matters that were identified in the motion convening closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the board.
Thank you, Ms. Sealy.
I have a
Mr.
second?
Thomas?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Thomas, do you so certify?
I so certify.
Mr. Black, do you so certify?
I so certify.
Mr. Sealy?
Madam Chair, I so certify.
And I so certify, and we will catch Mr. Forehand when he comes back in. All right, that takes us to public comment section. He's locked out.
His badge is sitting right here.
Mr. Forehand, do you so certify?
I do certify.
We already read it.
I do certify.
Thank you, sir. That takes us to public comment. Public comment period is a time when you can come and speak on anything that is not a public hearing tonight. So if anyone has any comments they would like to make, please come forward at this time, state your name, your voting district, and try to keep your comments to 3 minutes. Come on board.
Yes, I'm Thomas Trimmer, and I'm from the Mattapanai district.
Hi, Mr. Trimmer.
I was asked some time ago to come up about that I pick up the road. I pick up about 3.5 miles every day. It takes me about an hour and 10, 15, 20 minutes. It's involved with what I call the South Loop. It's over behind Love's Truck Stop. I pick up Rufa Glen from Love's back to Loop Road. I pick up all the Loop Road. These are both sides. I pick up the McKesson lane and the Tarco lane. I also cut the grass around all 8 fire hydrants. I cut all 3 corners that you can't see on in the summer that some of them complain about that the state don't take care of. One of them is particularly very hard, where the stop sign where you turn right and go Rufa Glen left and Loop Road. You never cut it off that you don't roll down the hill while you're cutting it a couple of times. So I did not care for what I heard when the Love's was trying to get its parking lot. The trash is no problem in that area on the South Loop whatsoever. There is no, as far as y'all are concerned, there is no trash. It's a beautiful road. It's like a park. I pick it up every morning. Right now, the sun comes up. I'm waiting for the sun to come up at 6 after 6. I'm out there by 20 after 7. I'm back eating my breakfast. My doctor likes for me to do that. I carry a 5-gallon bucket to pick the trash up. 90% of the time, a 5-gallon bucket holds all the trash. Most of the trash I pick up is on what I call Tarco Lane from McKesson to Tarco Bell. Behind there is very nasty. You pick up drug needles, all kinds of things that I don't want to talk about. And they must party back there. The truckers cannot get in there. And I would like to say that the truckers, I've done this for 8 years, ever since Loop Road was built. The truckers are most wonderful people in the world. They hand me bottles of cold water in the summer. They hand me coffee in the winter. Some of them hand $5 to me and tell me what a beautiful job I'm doing picking it up. So the people who told y'all that the roads were dirty were lying. They're plain liars. and a lot of other things were said that weren't true at the same time. But this did involve me. I'm giving y'all 15 hours a week for nothing. And I just wanted to clarify that. The road is perfect, and the truckers are not trashing it. Thank you for y'all's
Thank you,
time.
Mr. Trimmer, and thank you for your work for the county to help keep it beautiful. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work, Mr. Trimmer.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak at this time?
Madam Chairman, thank you. Jason Sadoway, Vice President of Bowling Green Fire Department, Bowling Green District. Just want to make a couple comments on item 11 of the agenda, the approval of the Department of Fire and Rescue Fleet Replacement Plan. I have the executive summary here. I'm just asking for y'all to possibly consider having a work session with, I understand we have a fire chief that's been employed for the county to come up with these plans, but I also still feel that the volunteers have an active enough role that we should have a chance to voice some concern with you all and the fire chief on this plan before it's acted on. One thing I do have a concern with, it says in the executive summary that no concerns were expressed regarding this plan. That plan was, Chief Hooley did meet with the fire chief and expressed his concern about the replacement of the trucks and the plan, which I believe Chief Hooley will get into more details, but the biggest thing I wanted to talk about was just see if y'all would be willing to entertain a work session with us and the fire chief. We have some very large concerns about the size of the fleet in the very near future. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak?
Good evening, folks.
Good evening.
My name's Steve Melson. I'm the District Fire Chief in Ladysmith. And I'm just want to touch briefly on the capital improvement plan as it was presented to y'all. That is a comprehensive plan that stretches projectively out almost a decade from today. And it's been a constant progress. And it flows from year to year based on, of course, the funds that the county has available. That's something that we have worked with the fire chief on. It was brought up in a command staff meeting that we had not even a month ago. And Mr. Cully was in attendance for that meeting, and nobody expressed any concerns in that forum among the leaderships of the department against what was put to paper by the fire chief. My biggest concern is the fact that we have hired a fire chief to oversee the operations of fire and rescue in this county for almost a decade now, and I would really appreciate it if y'all would provide the support that's required of that position because he does seek input from the other agencies and the other leaders within the agencies to provide that input towards what they think is best for their company.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Arthur Hooley, Fire Chief at Bowling Green Volunteer Fire Department, Bowling Green District. Here to speak with you guys also in reference to the new business section, number 11. It's in there under Fire and Rescue Fleet Replacement Plan, and I guess capital improvement plan, it may be another terminology that's in there. There's a few concerns that I had, and I did meet with the fire chief in regards to that, and I was unable to meet that command staff meeting about a month ago when they said that there were no concerns about that. Some of the concerns that I have in reference to that was that if this is passed, there's a apparatus marking guide that's in there, which it's, I think, on page 19 through 23 in your CIP packet. And that mostly describes some things in there about how apparatus are labeled within the county. And we pride ourselves in being volunteers in this county and providing that service to the citizens. And we like to, of course, support where we came from. There's Ladysmith, Port Royal, Frog Level, Sparta, Upper Caroline, Bowling Green. And in the past, all our trucks have been labeled with that respective station. And if this is passed, this is going to take away that. It'll still have the name on there, but it won't be on the front doors. And just to give you guys some facts, in the month of June, Bowling Green themselves put in 700 hours of volunteer staffing. And that equates to about 4 full-time personnel, but on a volunteer capacity. And then last month, we put in 1,500 hours, which would equate to 9 full-time people working 40-hour work weeks there. And that's not going to be consistent every single month. It's summer, sometimes it drops back during winter, but with those 2 months right there, we're providing 700 to 1,500, and we've been around the 600 to 700 in all prior months per the records. And some other things that I wanted to bring up was, I had a meeting personally with the fire chief to express my concerns about the fleet replacement, and here in Bowling Green, we have 2,000 gallons of water, and that's what we can provide out of that station for fire suppression. And we have 2 trucks that are getting to the end of their life, and the replacement for that truck is 500 gallons. So if we're going to go out, and I don't think that we can still provide that same service to the citizens with 500 gallons of water if both of those trucks were to go out of service. Now, one of them is scheduled to be replaced in 2020, but it's been out of service for about the last 60 days constantly with numerous mechanical issues. So I would ask that the board sit down with all the agencies from all the volunteer companies and try to have a meeting so that we can resolve this, so that we don't end up going forward and not being able to provide this service to the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you.
David Jenkins, Port Royal Assistant District Chief. I'm here too also about the fleet replacement plan. The Chief and I had discussion quite a few years ago about it, and our tankers being phased out of the fleet. We are a rural station. We do not have luxury hydrants, and we're just very concerned about being able to provide the protection that we can now with a tanker in the station. The other issue we have is, I believe it was in 2023, there was land acquisition put in CIP for station replacement, and it was kind of caught us off guard last year, but while I'm here, I figured I'd address it. We'd like to discuss the plans and whether or not it could be achieved in a less expensive manner than going out and starting from bare ground again. Also, while I'm here as a citizen, I believe it's item 10, the Commissioner of Revenue's first reading on land use. Why are we wanting all of a sudden to charge a fee to process papers that benefit the county by keeping open space open? Yes, it's only $10 now, but it's basically another form of taxation. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
I'm Brian Marmaduke, and I'm from the Bowling Green Volunteer Fire Department. I'm also the president of the CCVEO, and I would like to talk on reference number 11 on y'all's agenda. The reason I'd like to talk about that is, yep, we were given a packet in the July meeting, but in that packet, we only had about 5 minutes. It would be like y'all receiving y'all's board packet tonight and asked to be voted on an issue on it. So ahead of time, we really wasn't asked any questions on, right, wrong, and indifferent on it. So I, too, are here asking the board for us to have a work session with y'all so we can clear this stuff up finally. I think once we do that, there won't be any more discussion on good, bad, or indifferent. That'd be all that I know of. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Stuart Lane. I live in the Reedy Church District, and I volunteer, Ladies with Volunteer Rescue Squad. I also asked for a meeting with the board to address these issues. I think it's very important. We've been pretty lucky in Ladysmith Rescue with their finances and have worked hard, but there are some conditions out here that need to be addressed, and I think we need more time to look at this factor. And also, I'd like to address the raising a fee on the land use. I think it's egregious that we have to pay more taxes, and a fee is a tax, and so I'm totally against that. But other than that, I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak at this time? Anyone else that would like to speak? Anyone else? Seeing no other, we will close the public comment period. Takes us to our one and only public hearing of this evening. So, Mr. Fincham, Mr. Parton's taking this one, okay.
I'm going to start it and call in reinforcements. Madam Chair, members of the board, the purpose of this public hearing tonight is to consider an ordinance to repeal and replace Chapter 103, Article 5, Sections 103.25 through 103.33 of the Code of Caroline County. And this is the section of the county code that relates to the requirement to purchase and display a permanent county license, which is more commonly referred to as the county sticker, on every motor vehicle which is normally garaged, stored, or parked within the county. The proposed ordinance would eliminate the requirement to purchase or display a county sticker of any kind. It would not, however, I emphasize, eliminate the assessment of an annual license tax on eligible vehicles by the Commissioner of the Revenue's Office. As we've discussed before, some of the considerations driving this discussion about the possible elimination of the county sticker are decals issued by localities must be moved from the center of the windshield to the left corner, adjacent to the state inspection center sticker, by 1/1/19 to comply with the Virginia State Police requirement. This will cause problems for citizens with county stickers in the center of their windshields who would have to peel them off. They would be destroyed in the process. They'd have to replace them. The second consideration is that, as we've discussed before, very few localities in the Commonwealth still require either an annual or a permanent sticker, all of these leading to the consideration to eliminate the need for the sticker. So the proposed new ordinance that is included in your packet was drafted by the Commissioner's Office as well as the Treasurer's Office, and it has been reviewed by Mr. Emerson as the County Attorney. And with that, I would ask the Commissioner's Office if they have anything to add before we open up the public hearing.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Thomas.
before Mr. Parton leaves, should this modification pass, I imagine we'll all go outside to our cars and scrape off our stickers immediately, or is there a time frame?
I think it would be.
Mr. Emerson?
Sorry, I was going to say, you can leave it up until the state says that you
Until-
can't have it in the
until I
middle
get a ticket
anymore,
from
until
the
you get a
state
ticket
police
from
for
the state
having it in
police.
the-
But you
That's
can
my
scrape
point.
it off if you want, or you could leave it on until
So-
then.
But they all have to be removed according to the state police by 1/1/19.
1/1/19, right, yes, sir.
Okay. But if we vote yes, we can all go outside and scrape the stickers off. Is that true, Sergeant? Okay, thank you.
At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing. Anyone who wishes to speak on the topic of the changes to the ordinance for the county sticker or vehicle decal, however you want to place it, please come forward at this time. State your name, voting district, and keep your comments to under 3 minutes. Hello again.
Jason Satterwhite, the mayor of Bowling Green. Just for your information purposes, we just voted to remove the town stickers also for the town, so just in case you didn't know that. So
Thank you, Mrs. Satterwhite. Is there someone else that would like to speak? Sheriff Lippa.
Yes, ma'am. Tony Lippa, Bowling Green District, and I'm all in favor of removal of the county sticker, and we can do it immediately, and the state obviously would enforce that if we didn't remove it by January.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this topic? Is there anyone else? Anyone else? This public hearing is now closed. How would the board like to proceed with this?
Quickly.
All right. Then we can,
I'll make a motion that we proceed with the change in the ordinance to not require a county sticker any longer, effective today.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the changes to the county sticker ordinance. Any further discussion?
Who's got the razor blade? Who's got the razor blade?
Who's got the razor blade?
You don't have time, there's no
Yeah,
break.
we don't have too many people, not enough razor blades, okay.
Aye.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Thank you all for your comments. Thank you for your work on that. All right, number 5. RFP for financing Caroline Middle School Energy Performance Contract. Who's taking this one? Ms. Davenport and Company. He's going to give us a nice bounded one. We got this one. You didn't have to go through all that trouble.
Madam Chair, members of the board, good evening.
Good evening.
We have a hard copy because there are some numbers on a couple of slides that are going to be hard to read up here on this presentation, but even the presentation, is that big? Is that okay? It's as large as, even that's kind of hard to read. I know I'm blind, but I'm going to go with my hard copy here. One small thing on the first bullet, it says the county is considering entering into a energy performance contract. It's actually the school board that would be entering into that contract with Honeywell. The goal of the lease is to implement equipment and capital improvements to the middle school to save on energy costs over time. The total cost of the project is approximately $1.1 million. We were asked to go out and procure financing for this $1.1 million, so we're going to give you the results of that. As you know, we did the refinancing earlier this year of some bonds. Rates have started trickling up a little bit. We expect the Fed to raise rates again in September, which could impact the front end of the yield curve. But we've got rates locked in. We sent it out to our list of local, regional, and national banks. We actually got a dozen different bids in, and the local guys came in with the lowest bid. Union Bank came in at a $3.29. We had as high as a $3.99, so a good spread there. They were very competitive. In terms of their proposal, we can prepay it at any time without penalty. This rate is basically fixed for the entire 15 years. They've got a small closing cost for their legal, to cover their legal fees. And so basically it would be to close by August 27th. Now comes the fun part. So what happens on these contracts is Honeywell goes and does an analysis and tells what the projected energy savings are, as well as any operational savings. And so they've got if you look, it's hard to see this, below the dark green projected cash flow header, the first set of numbers is the total savings. And then the bottom part is the expenses, which includes the debt service on this loan, along with their service costs. And essentially, they projected their savings at a 3% interest rate. We came in slightly over that at a 3.29. So there's actually a slight cost each year of about $9,000. That totals up to about $132,000. One way to alleviate that is for the school system to come up with a down payment, and we calculate that at just slightly over $100,000. If they put that up front to downsize our borrowing, then essentially it becomes a break-even scenario where it essentially you're borrowing the money, but you're saving enough on the operationals that it basically breaks even, and you're able to have more efficient lights and energy savings. So our recommendation, if if you want to move forward with this, is to use Union Bank. They've got the lowest rate of any of the bids we got. It's fixed until final maturity, so there's no future interest rate risk. You can prepay it at any time without penalty, and their closing costs were very minimal. So moving forward, if you choose to move forward with this, and there's a resolution that has been prepared in case you do want to move forward, we would basically work the balance of August to put together the closing documents with bond counsel and then close prior to the end of August. Madam Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Forehand.
Page 6 shows a cost of issuance of $60,000.
Yes, sir.
Page 6.
That's the bank cost that I mentioned earlier, bond counsel and ourselves.
Okay. And most of that is because this is a standalone. If we had rolled this into the last one, just give me a ballpark what that sort of added to our last cost of issuance. The delta between this being standalone versus it being part of the...
Do you remember what the full bond sale, the public sale cost is? For the public sale, which is a lot more because you have ratings, there's a lot more work.
No,
is that what you're talking about?
sorry.
The energy performance agreement we did with ABM, we borrowed the money.
Oh,
for
what the
ABM.
difference is between the cost of issuance?
Yeah, we had a $5.3 million that we were doing then.
Just trying to
roll this $1.2 million into that.
Just trying to figure out how upset I should be, whether we should have rolled it into the last one or...
I suspect this is very comparable, if maybe a little bit more. We actually cut our fee in half just because it was just a smaller size and just trying to be helpful to the process here. So I suspect we're just slightly below where we were before.
And if we'd have added 1.1 to the last total,
Oh,
3.2.
then it wouldn't have, it would have been zero, sure. Yeah,
Rogers, I think he's referring to the actual fee.
right. It would, if we had included
Not
this.
your fee, the actual loan repayment number.
No, the cost of issuance.
Yeah, he's talking about
that-
the upfront.
yeah,
He is,
that's
yeah.
zero.
If we had done this at the same time, there wouldn't have been any additional dollars unless
Well, that's what
the
I
bank
wanted.
fee was higher for some reason.
Thank you.
Mr. Rogers, what is the annual rate of payment on this? Because in the copy that I had, I saw the graphs, but it didn't really answer.
Annual, in terms of debt service payment?
Right.
Alex, am I correct, it's roughly $100,000 a year? About $100,000 a year.
Well, it slides, 91, 93, 96, 99. I want to
Yeah,
know
If you look on page 5,
on page 5.
you'll see the expense line item, and it says debt service.
So it's not
It's not level.
so it's not level.
It's slightly inclining. Right.
Why is that?
It's lining up with the, basically the savings that they gave us. Trying to match the savings that they projected.
Because I believe ours was a net number. When we did our financing, ours, as I recall, was a fixed.
A level payment.
Right.
And we can do that. There's nothing that says we can't. The savings that they gave us started out at roughly $90,000 and rises to $132,000 in the final year. So we were basically trying to mimic that structure. But that's easy for us to change the amortization to a level payment. That'll save a little bit of interest, but not a lot.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Mr. Thomas.
And I'm not sure who it goes to, but when the county did their performance contract, the vendor guaranteed those savings. Are there vendor guarantees in this one? So if they don't, Mr. Emerson, you push the button.
I was going to say, we have not seen the contract yet, which we would like to see in a review so that we could answer questions like that before any money is borrowed. So if you choose to approve The financing, we'd like it to be subject to the county attorney's office actually reviewing the lease agreement with Honeywell and approving of it.
Well, I appreciate the county attorney's input, but personally, I would like to see that number and that guarantee before I vote to approve it. So I'm not sure where we have chicken and egg or what the story is, but we've got school board members here. Do you have the contract? Anybody? Or school representatives, not school board members?
Good evening, Madam Chair, Mr. Forehand,
Good
Board of
evening.
Supervisors, Mr. Culley, County Attorney. The question again, Mr. Thomas, if you would, please.
Who has seen the contract and where the contract is?
We do currently have that contract. Of course, it has not been executed, and we were prepared to send it to our council in the event that the financing was approved.
Do you have a performance guarantee in that contract?
I haven't seen the specifics, but my understanding is
That was a
yes, sir.
So you're saying you haven't seen it, but you're answering yes?
Yes, sir. And I'll
Okay.
yield to some other folks that are
You can
here.
have a seat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jeffrey's coming too. Might know. Mr. Shebold, you were on the committee. Can you shed some light on this?
I can't speak whether it is or is not in the contract. I do know that DMME has been part of this process and have reviewed everything to date, and that is the intention for that to be in the contract. DMME will review that to make sure that that's in there, as it was with ours. So, and of course, the county attorney would also have to look at that, but that was part of the negotiation, a part of the discussions through the whole process, and having DMME there to help support that and make sure that it was written appropriately for our guarantee.
Thank you, Mr. Shebel. Other questions?
I have a question for Mr.
Mr.
Rogers.
All right, Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Rogers?
Sir.
Your data that you showed us is not really time critical, is it?
The rate's guaranteed through the 27th, so that's our one time critical item.
Thank you.
Mr. Black.
I just got a question, maybe Mr. Honan can answer. I see at the bottom paragraph here, it says the original project paid for itself. However, the schools wish to replace the entire automation system instead of just upgrading the existing system. What's the reason behind that?
The existing system is several generations old. We've had, continue to have component failure. Placement of those components is becoming more difficult. So it seemed like the logical time to upgrade.
Okay. So it's like a zone heating area, is that how it's done?
I'm sorry, what?
How, is it like a zone heating area, different areas, or would each teacher have a control in their classroom? How would it work? Or the heating?
No, the centralized control of the system. There are several large air handlers that supply air throughout the facility, and there are mixing boxes and VAV boxes throughout the facility that are controlled on a room-by-room basis.
Is there a major problem right now with it?
There currently is not, but like I said, we have had to replace and continuing to have to replace some of the components.
Thank you.
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Mr. Seeley.
Mr. Rogers, how difficult is this to level out the payment so that,
Not difficult at all. Very easy for us to change.
I
that.
think budget-wise, it needs to, at a minimum, be one level payment, not the sliding scale. I guess that's why I was looking for a number that was just.
Understand. Yeah, we were just trying to match their, kind of like when we do a refinancing, we match existing payments. That was what we were doing here, but that's easy enough. It'll front load the payment a little bit.
Did
but that's-
this did not take into account the $103,000 they needed up front based on the graphs that you showed?
The base case does not. The base case borrows the entire amount, the project fund plus the cost of issuance. So you can see the par amount's $1.2 million. If you flip on this case 2, we borrow less because of the upfront payment.
What pages?
Page 6 is the
6.
upfront.
Case 2.
So we borrow $100,000 roughly less, essentially.
Okay.
That's the only way to match up to the savings because the interest rate came in over their estimate. Again, when they did their estimate of savings, they assumed a 3% borrowing rate, and we came in at 3.29, slightly higher.
And we can show them that that's no longer a realistic rate to estimate on?
Absolutely. The market speaks for itself. We got a
Absolutely.
dozen bids.
None of them were within 2/100 or 2/10 of a.
Yeah, we're basically 30 basis points off, 29 basis points.
So we could, if we move forward with this, we could, would release funds from there, money we're holding for the school for the 103.
Madam Chair, could I ask one, or maybe Mr. Shebel, one last one? I mean, we're probably going to do this, I just,
Right. While Mr. Shebel's coming up, I will just say what bothers me on this is not that they're doing it, because I think it's a great program. Anything that will pay for itself over time is wonderful. What bothers me is that we tried to do this when we did our contract, and now we're paying $60,000 more. But we can't turn back the hands of time, so let's move forward.
well, you're not only paying $60,000 more, but the interest rate changed.
Well, the school's going to pay for that. Yeah.
Mr. Shebel, the company that did the counties was
ABM?
ABM. Did they bid on the schools project?
They did.
And their bid came out higher? We went with the lowest bid, or was this the lowest bid, or whatever?
It actually wasn't the lowest bid the way that you would look at it as a bid. You basically looked at their performance and what their projects were.
Right.
Originally, ABM, their proposal did not include completely replacing the automation system. That was one of the things that the school wanted as a priority and went back and asked ABM to provide pricing. So as part of that, then when they looked at replacing that, it did cost a little bit more than the Honeywell project.
And Honeywell is the incumbent vendor.
Correct, and they're also the second vendor that bid on ours, so both of them were really comparable on our project. We just selected ABM. Same on this. Both of them look like that they did really good. Both of them have already been pre-authorized through the program through DMME.
What you just said was there was apparently a bid process, and then there was an addendum to the bid process.
Wasn't really a bid process. The bid process was fine.
Right.
They were all asked to provide. They were asked to provide a cost-neutral project. ABM provided that. The schools said that they wanted to also replace the entire system, so ABM had to go back and include that because that wasn't something they included. Honeywell did.
Which was not part of the original RFP?
I guess it was twofold. One, they wanted to try to make it a neutral project, but also they wanted to include it in ABM said they could not make it a neutral project with that included.
With the existing
and of course, Honeywell couldn't either, but.
Okay. I was just trying to make sure I understood the process, having been involved in those kind of processes or processes. I understand how vendors tend to feel if they're asked to do other things, and I was just curious about that. Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
My biggest concern is neither entities, law firms have looked at the contract. And I understand that we've got to make a decision on funding at a lot of levels.
I mean, it's a project that we should do.
I agree.
In spite of the issues of we should have done it before and now the rates are higher and we paid more money, we need to do this project because it's beneficial for everybody in the county. So, I'll bite the bullet and say, go ahead.
I'd like to see the $103,000 come out of their cash, out of their reserve fund for capital projects. Because that would pay that down and not have to impact financing?
Let me make the motion to move ahead forward first. I'm gonna make a motion to move ahead with the performance or school energy performance contract financing pending a review by the county attorney, staff, and any other board member who wants to look at the contract. And that's my motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second concerning the contract. Any other discussion? Hearing no discussion, all right, Mr. Jorge.
So what if it's reviewed and it doesn't have the language?
It has to have that language in
Okay.
it.
That's not in the motion.
Well, I would amend my motion to state that the review by the county attorney, staff, and any board member should confirm that the language of
Guaranteed cost savings?
cost neutral was the word I was looking for. Or the contract should have cost neutrality language in it, so that it will have no impact on the county finances. I'm sorry, Mrs. Hall, but this seems like to be a long rambling motion, but it's a long rambling process.
You amend your second.
I'll amend my second.
All right, we have an amended motion, amended second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Can we move to the next
Now
phase of that
let's-
as funding
Can we go
it?
to the funding section?
Because I would like to see, Mr. Rogers, it be one level amount. I would also like to see us say that the school's going to have the savings that could be deducted to make the loan payment from their budget each year till it's paid, and that we pay the $103,000 up front from, I don't even know what to call the fund anymore, Mr. Cully.
Is it a contingency?
The contingency?
It was a high school contingency fund is where the bulk of the money was, with $1 million that was set aside.
Okay, so, and pay the $103,000 from the high school contingent fund. That's a motion.
How much is in the high school contingent fund?
Curtis might know.
Do you know how much?
You may need to go to the mic, Mr.
Well,
Finney.
We've got the school accountant coming in.
I'd rather have our number, because at least we've
We'll
had
have
this
a budget.
discussion before.
Board members, I believe it's about $120,000 as of June 30th of 2018, but we haven't reconciled any additional funds that may be available based on this year's closeout.
That is out of the 550,000, correct?
Oh, here we go again.
The 450,000 was remaining that you guys did do 59,000 and
Right.
some odd change the other day, so that is also remaining.
But we're not counting that.
About
We're,
400.
remember, you had the contingency fund for the high school?
Correct.
And
You
I think-
started with $1 million. So
Right,
that's why.
and Mr. Honan said there was 100 and some thousand at our work session, 100 and some thousand from from your actual financing,
Correct.
right? That's not part of the million.
The million was broken into two pots, 450,000 and 550,000.
Okay, stop right there. There's also the $25 million for the original project, right?
That was a bond.
Right. And from that 25 million, it was my understanding, Mr. Honan said there was 100 and some thousand left on the high school project because he and Mr. Seeley had a debate about 90% complete. And where was the other money if it was 90% complete?
That was
I
1.2
think those
million.
got balanced out. I think it's,
That was out of the 550.
Okay. You're following that? You're following her?
So Mr. Finney and I haven't reconciled that
Okay.
completely all the way down, but there is approximately over 100,000 sitting in that 550 remaining.
Okay, I'm not following.
The bond money's all gone.
The bond money was $25 million.
And now we're eating into that 550, which was taken out of the initial 1 million. It was separated into 450 and 550.
Let me get to the top. The bond money of $25 million is all gone.
Yes, sir.
When I specifically said no contingency fund because I had issues with the previous superintendent, the previous superintendent. So now we put $1 million from your Anthem money into the bond or into the projects. So the whole school projects is not 25 million, but 26 million. Right?
You only appropriated 550,000.
But we have 450 that's out there, right?
Correct, sir.
So 26 million is the number, right?
If you add them together, yes, sir.
So my point again is the project didn't cost 25 million. It's already cost 25.5 million. And there's another 500,000 out there. Okay.
No, 25.4 million.
Yeah, that's what you were talking about.
We're still,
25.4 million, there's 100,000
25 point,
less sitting out there.
25.45, and there's 550 still out there, right? We're gonna agree because numbers are a thing we both love, so we're gonna agree.
right now in our board packet, status of capital projects, the high school project is 92.2% complete with $20,222,834 spent. Now, that still leaves over $1.2 million someplace. This is in our packet, so this number's been reconciled someplace. So how am I still I'm still at 92.2% complete on the bond, which we are both now, everybody now saying is gone. So where does that show up at since it's not in my board packet?
The budget comparisons may be slightly off. I've been working with Fran. She came back to help me on some items, and she discovered where some payments that I made during this current fiscal year should not have been part of the bond for the schools. It should have been for retainage, I believe.
Yeah, but my point is that we're still, even with that, let's say that's a mistake, I'm still at 92.2% of the budget for the bond being spent on both schools at 25 million. Somebody's got to explain to me how we're still showing 92.2% complete on the bond money, aside from all the rest of this. Because we've been stuck here, and that's a lot. I mean, it's over $1.2 million that's still in play, someplace. Somebody's got to help us fix this. Because we can't report it month after month in the board packet, official record, 92.2% complete. And everybody's down there now saying the bond money's all been spent. Okay, the numbers we have don't reflect that. And now we're saying that the 550,000 is down to 120,000 left over from the 550. Is that not what I'm hearing? Either yes or no. I mean, so there's $120,000 left from the 550, and we've only spent, what, 39,000 from the 450? 59. So there is actually someplace in all these numbers $103,000 to pay for the Honeywell system to be upgraded. Are we in agreement there?
Yes, sir.
And then level payment so that we can actually get the school board to agree that you're going to have the savings, so you're going to have the money, and we're going to use the money from the school budget for the next 15 years, subtract whatever that amount is to make the debt service payment is what my motion is. Just to be clear. Because I think that's fair for everybody. You're going to save the money, you're going to pay for the cost up front, all the savings is yours, and it's going to go up, so you're going to pay a little bit in the beginning, but you're going to save a lot more in the end. I'm just trying to be fair across the board. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Do we have, no? All right. So the motion is to move ahead with the school paying the $103,621 for the down payment and to reschedule for even payment, level payments across the 15-year
That's,
calendar year.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, wait a minute, we're not finished? Oh.
So to be clear, we're going to go with base case 2. We're going to size, assuming equities coming in of $103,000, as we're shown there, and we're going to do level payments.
correct. That's what the motion is.
Got it.
I've got ayes. All opposed?
But Madam Chair, I do want a reconciliation on the bond because it's not in the board packet and everybody seems to agree that all the money is spent, but it doesn't show up in anything that we've received as a board. No place.
Mr.
Also-
Colley assures me you'll have it by next meeting.
Also, to be clear, the other motion that Mr. Thomas, I think, made to move forward, subject to review of the contract and approval and all, we need to clarify or make certain that once that review occurs, then the resolution that's in your packet is actually effective and adopted.
So you need a third motion?
Wouldn't hurt.
You want a third one, or you want me to amend that one again?
I'd make a third motion.
Just make a third one.
Fun.
Subject to your other motion, the resolution is approved.
I would move that subject to my previous motion made today regarding the performance bond, that that staff have the authority to move forward once it's given approval or seen the language.
That the resolution,
Yeah. I'm really not happy right now, so don't ask me to say anything. I need a break.
well, can you say resolution is approved? Can I have a second?
$26 million. Nobody caught that.
No, I caught it. I mean, I don't know how we have $1 million left if the contract was $25 million and that's
Can I
not
have a second
executed.
before we start discussion,
Second.
please? Thank you. I have a motion and a second.
Discussion.
Discussion?
I don't understand how we spent $26 million. We split the pot into $450 and $550, which was the additional million. The $25 million is not accounted for, but we spent an additional $1 million in the school. Somebody's got to figure out, everybody's shaking their head no, but I can tell you that there was a lot of money spent.
All right. Any further
And we still
discussion?
can't pay for the health insurance.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Thank you, Mr. Rogers. All right. We need a 5-minute break? All right. I have a request for a 5-minute break. We will adjourn in 5 minutes, and I'm watching the clock. We are now back in session. We're moving on with number 6 out of a wonderful 16. We're getting there. All right. Proposed policy on surplus fire and rescue apparatus. Yes. Mr. Thomas wants one for his for his yard, whatever, if you have an extra.
Carmel Church. We want all the old ones for Carmel Church.
All right. Good evening, board members. In the interest of time, I know you still have quite a bit of agenda. Following the May 22nd, Chief Loftus went to work on a policy for your consideration concerning what to do with assets from the sale of surplus emergency vehicles, realizing that we had a number of the fleet that had very mixed ownership and history of purchasing. So for simplicity's sake, you saw in your packet, he has a policy that has 4 different categories. Very quickly, volunteer-owned or volunteer-funded. Volunteers have the right to either turn that money over to the county or use it for their own expenses. Obviously, units that the county has purchased, those funds go back in towards the purchase of new apparatus.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, a couple questions.
Mr. Forehand.
On category B, there's noticeable that there's volunteer titled / co-titled. Is that just an oversight, or does that matter? The rest of them, have it.
I don't believe it's an oversight. There are some apparatus that were volunteer and some that were co-titled, even though the volunteer agency made the purchase on that. And some that aren't.
So the no co-titled in category B, they're all volunteer titled?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I did not see any policy statements regarding department purchased equipment that they might have equipped an apparatus with.
That was not covered in this policy, and certainly I feel comfortable saying the chief would welcome the opportunity to work on that if that's something the board would like to see.
I just know if a department saved money to buy a $3,000 piece of equipment to put on an engine, and when the engine is replaced, so they might want to retain that.
Historically, that has not been an issue. Number one, we tend to practice anything that is good, we move over to a piece of apparatus.
Okay.
And quite frankly, it hasn't been an issue.
Okay.
Our air packs are exclusively owned and things such as that. Radios always transfer over.
And the only piece of equipment that's in category C, which I think is the only category that could even raise an eyebrow for anybody, is engine 1, E1. The rest of them are
There is
be worn out by the time they.
There is a brush truck that is there, as well as a tanker, I believe, that fall in that category. But
one's a worn out pickup truck, and another pickup truck, and a Jeep.
Certainly.
And then right. Have y'all had any preliminary conversations regarding the disposition of that particular apparatus in engine 1?
The entire policy was discussed at the July command staff meeting. At our August meeting, there was no additional concerns raised about this.
Okay.
I think I feel comfortable saying overall people think it's very fair, realizing their apparatus that volunteers purchase, the county may have put money towards, but no one is addressing that down to the penny, really only addressing the later apparatus that the county made the payments on.
Looking at that, there are several that are category B, so there was some county funding presumably in that, so it's going to come out in the wash anyway. So
yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
What's the board pleasure on moving forward with this?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
One last thing. Looking at the category C and D, it says general fund. General fund to me says county budget. Is that supposed to go to the county, the fire and EMS reserve fund? Is that what the intent for that was?
Certainly, our intention would be that it would be back into the fund earmarked for the purchase of future apparatus.
Do you have
And Mr. Cully, you correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we still call that general fund, is that correct? Even though it's an earmark, or?
It would have to go in the capital reserve, the Fire and Rescue Capital Reserve Fund to be reserved. If it just went in revenue in the general fund, it would just stay general fund revenue to be in the fund balance. We would know how much it was that went in there if you ever wanted to appropriate some back out, but I would just put it in the Fire and Rescue Capital Reserve Fund.
So change that to the Fire Rescue Capital Reserve Fund, if you're amicable to that.
Absolutely.
That's it. That's all the questions I got.
That's fine. Go for it.
With the change.
I'll make a motion that we accept the policy with the one change regarding category C and D regarding the disposition of the funds to the Capital Reserve, Fire and EMS Capital Reserve Fund. Otherwise, we'll approve as written.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we're moving to 8. We already did 7. Thank you. Thank
No,
you.
he said he.
Yeah. All
what the
right,
sheriff said.
Mr. Fincham, I guess you are up. We are on number 8.
Madam Chair, members of the board, your next item for consideration is a discussion of a requested festival permit application for a rock and country music festival at Meadow Event Park. You have the application in your packet. We were a little uncertain as to whether to put this on new business or under presentations because the applicant is here to answer any questions that the board may have concerning their application. They've requested this be on the agenda tonight for a proposed music festival to be held in August of 2019 at the Meadow Event Park. Open Air Events LLC, as well as Commonwealth Fairs and Events, are the co-applicant on the proposed music festival to be held at the Meadow Event Park. Any music festivals at that facility are subject to 2 sets of regulations. The first set is Chapter 49 of the County Code, which addresses the standards for music festivals. The second provisions are the approved special exception permit for Meadow Event Park, which regulates who can hold the standards under which concerts can be held. Okay, if it's a Commonwealth Fairs and event, co-sponsor or sponsored facility, it's one set of standards. If it's an independent third-party application, it's another set of standards. So both of those sets of regulations govern music festivals that are to be held at the Meadow Event Park. Within the application, I think they've spelled out what their request is. There are a couple of areas that I think probably need to be addressed and or clarified related to their application. Chapter or Section 49.5 of the County Code limits music festivals to 8 hours in duration in any 24-hour period. The application request indicates that the music would start at 10 and end at 10:30 p.m. So that's roughly 12 and a half hours. I think we need some clarification on that. 49.6 also requires that anybody under the age of 18 be accompanied by an adult. I think the information provided was unclear as to that particular standard. You have a map in your packet which generally shows, I realize it's small, but it generally shows the proposed stage locations around the facility on the north side of Route 30. Those applications are in between the little red squares, which are generally the locations identified for stage locations held by Commonwealth Fairs and Events. So I think we can say that they are in the area of the identified stage locations. I don't have any other information at this time. I'll answer any questions you may have. As I indicated, the applicant is here as well. Ms. Joliffe could not be here tonight, and she sends her regrets for not being able to attend.
Would we like to invite the applicant up to speak?
Please.
Let's invite the applicant up to speak. As we'll have somebody to answer the questions directly. Hi, how are you?
I'm great. My name is Ronnie Jackson. I'd like to tell you that I'm a native of Lunenburg County, in which I served 10 years on the fire department there. I can answer pretty much any question. August the 3rd of this month, I had a meeting at the Meadow Event Park with all the county officials that would interject any ideas and concerns and part of the application process. We had fire and rescue, state police, sheriff's department, EMS, private security, traffic control, and all those entities there in a full discussion to iron out any issues to make this event a perfectly organized and safe event that Caroline County can be proud of.
Thank you very much. I have a question. How do you, on the age issue, how is that controlled at the gates?
At the ticket-in plaza, we will not only control age with armbands, we will control we're actually going to have metal detectors. And we'll control every line, every human being that comes through there. We'll control them with checking age and armbanding them with a certain color to distinguish that.
Good night.
Mr. Thomas.
Mr. Jackson, good to see you, sir.
Thank you.
This is a concert for next year.
Yes, sir.
And I understand it takes quite a while to put on a show like this. But my question is more like, who are the acts that you're planning to have? Because there's a big difference between Randy Travis' show and the Gaithers.
Right.
So, and I surprised you by knowing that, but I'm sure. But you have any idea what acts you're looking for?
Yes, sir. We're in negotiations now, and I can tell you the acts we're talking to. And the reason we're here a year in advance is to book these acts of caliber like we're talking about, you have to book them a year in advance.
Right.
And we're already into the middle of August, and if I don't get this done tonight, and we have to curtail it to next month, I could lose these acts.
And they are?
And they are Florida Georgia Line, Rascal Flatts, Brad Paisley, REO Speedwagon, Doobie Brothers, and that's about it right now.
Don't you laugh at that's back. Doobie Brothers were one of my guys. Leave my guys alone.
Oh, ZZ Top. I forgot one. Sorry.
Alabama?
That's who we're in negotiations with.
Alabama?
No, sir. I did that one on my previous show. I've done 30 shows in my life.
Are they all of this nature?
Yes, sir. I only do kind of classic rock and country. They're the best ones to work with. They draw the nicest crowd, and they're just easy.
One of my colleagues wants to know if you can throw in some fireworks at the end of the show.
Absolutely not.
Thank you.
Whoa.
Thank you.
No, don't do fireworks. Sorry.
Those are also regulated by the use permit, Mr. Black.
I guess he was willing to amend it.
Now, we are using VDOT-approved traffic control standard C10K.
And what's your estimated attendance?
Well, with the bigger stars, we could draw upwards of maybe 30 to 40. First year, I would say 20. But we want to be prepared. I want to be prepared for that number. The fairgrounds has had a one day of 60, and we went over that at this meeting. And what I would like to do is to keep these officials that I met with, who's going to be active in this event, updated on a regular basis on our ticket sales. So when they get to certain points, we can adjust and make everything safe.
Thank you very much. Which brings me to my next question. Sheriff Lippa, are we going to be okay? It's a lot of people.
Yes,
You got
ma'am.
it?
The question I was even getting to was that of the 18-year-olds being accompanied by an adult, and I think the planning group that they have together should be good, especially being kept up to date with the number of sales. I believe that we can handle that safely for everyone.
You'll be able to get enough extra, make sure he has enough security? keep everybody safe?
We'll work that out.
All right.
Excuse me, who's responsible for security? You are.
RMC Events is who I'm contracted with. I've done business with them for many years.
Okay, those people out of Richmond.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And they do the state fair every year.
Right, that's.
Dan Schmidt, I guess you guys probably know him.
Mr. Black, do you have a question?
So how quickly will you have your list finalized as far as the acts?
Well, first I have to get the permit,
Well, assuming, okay.
and then we put in offers for the different acts. It could take 2 weeks on some acts. It could take 2 or 3 weeks for them to get back to you. If there's a conflict, for instance, if they're booked within 150 miles of this one, of this venue, and the other venue won't grant a variance, then I have to go to another act. And I don't want to run out of acts.
That's right. Mr. Forehand?
Thank you.
I don't see any alcohol in the refreshments list.
Yes, sir, that's controlled by the Meadow Event Park license.
Okay.
My company doesn't have anything to do with the ABC.
Okay. So would they be, part of your screening process will be the game of finding where the alcohol is stashed?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay.
A complete search and of everybody that comes in. Not only alcohol, but anything, any kind of weapon, anything of that nature.
Okay. They're not normally metal, so the metal detector doesn't do a whole lot of good. But
Right.
I was just curious if alcohol was going to be there or not. I would assume so. I've seen many pictures of other, other large music events, and
Yes.
they seem to be enjoying themselves. So.
We're only going to do beer and wine.
All right.
Any other questions? If not,
Can we, I mean, once we approve this permit, we really have no control, but can we get a list of acts as soon as you know?
Oh,
just
sure.
buy your ticket, Mr. Thomas. Just buy
It's only
your ticket.
$179 that's in here.
I want to know who they are before I buy my ticket. So can we get a list of acts before you go? I mean, as soon as you know?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We'll be putting it on the website immediately.
Okay. Well, send it to us too, just to make sure I don't check the website.
Okay.
How are we
Thank you.
going?
Madam Chair,
Yeah, well, I have a, go ahead.
I was going to make a motion.
Well, I have one question. How are we going to address the time issue with the ordinance, with the permit? You said there's a limit of 8 hours, but they're planning on.
Oh, I
part of their
can
application.
answer that question.
All right.
Even though it's a 10-hour span there, 12-hour span there, it's for, when the gates open, we don't have any entertainment. And there are breaks in between. There's actually an exact total of 8 hours of entertainment.
Just wanted to make sure.
And I have that
They
on
probably have to
the form.
perform exactly that time.
Very good.
probably
Thank
true.
you. I just wanted to make sure we didn't have to adjust anything. Mr. Seeley?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the Festival Permit Rock, the Country Music Festival Commonwealth Fairs and Event Open Air LLC's event for next year.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you very much. I'll get you your list, sir.
Thank you very much. Reba McIntyre would be good.
Number 9. 9.
Nine.
9 at 9:09. Okay. At least they're not triple sixes. Right. Okay. Proposal for employees of Caroline Detention Facility be classified as Caroline County employees. Mr. Cully, this is yours.
We had always planned for VRS to continue with them as being authority employees, but we're informed by VRS that they didn't see it that way, and that they would have to reapply to join VRS, and then they would have to go through an evaluation, of which they could not give us a timetable on how long that would be, whether it be months, 6 months, 8 months, before they'd be reinstated. So VRS said the cleanest way for that to work would be if they were county employees, they would cover them, the ones that have been hired and are currently employed for July and moving forward. So they would handle all that through the board process tonight if that was approved. if it's not approved and they're not going to be VRS employees, a lot of those people have many years of VRS service, are probably not going to continue to want to stay employed at the facility without that VRS coverage, especially with it being unknown and could be 6 months before that could be determined. So I think it would put a hamper in hiring certified guards to work at the facility. So we recommend that they be created as a department and assigned to work for the Regional Jail Authority. There's no change in funds. All the funds will still run through, just has to run through our payroll, but the initial funds are coming to us anyway.
All right, questions?
Health insurance, everything else, like a typical employee?
They would have all of the benefits of a typical employee, other than they would be signed work hours that would be different from most county employees, although we do operate the fire department with that same issue. They are employees that work all kinds of different 24-hour shifts and those type of things. But there again, it would be net neutral because we already had all the formulas built in for all of this to begin with Department of Homeland Security. So the money, instead of just being paid out of payroll out of the jail authority, will be paid to Caroline first, and we will give the authority the money to pay bills. So that the bills of the authority, the light bill and the contracts and things, the authority will continue to do. We'll just be putting the employees there to operate the facility under the county umbrella. But the regional jail will still continue to run the facility.
My concerns are with, that we're adding
116.
33% more employees.
Yeah. At least, yeah, it's about 235 full-time employees current.
How does this affect our health insurance costs? It's another pool of employees. Does this other pool of employees negatively impact? They're all healthy.
Mr. Thomas, our consultant in digital benefits is looking at that, and I don't want to commit to anything, but her initial assessment was that she felt it would help us, given the pool of employees that we're talking about.
And you told her they were all in perfect health and would have no problems?
I didn't say that, no.
I'm just concerned at all the soft costs that, the HR costs and all these other costs that we have might have accounted for in the large scale of things, but are in this bucket over here right now. We would have to do a lot of.
The HR, they already have HR people, so we plan on cross-training them onto our system and continue to use their HR people. We would assign them to continue to do the hiring. HR issues may arise further than the superintendent at some point, in any kind of grievance procedure, but that would end up at my desk. But they will. I mean, we're working with IT. They'll have a VPN, virtual private network, to our network, and we're working with logins and things. Then they'll be just running the Bright system. I'm just going to use the employees that were going to do the function there at the facility. We'll still continue to do that, but they'll be inputting the data and doing the work on our end. So it'll be some initial involvement with Alan and Pam Vieira from our HR people to train their HR people on our procedures and things. But because they won't be working in any other area, it'll be specific training to that facility. It's not ideal, but the VRS threw us a curve and didn't want to. What we currently have done for 6 months are they run their own payroll, we pay VRS, and the jail authority pays us the money we pay for their employees to VRS. And we anticipated we would just do that for all 116. If you're writing a check for $500 or writing a check for $10,000 a month, it didn't. But they had some statutory issues. They thought June 30th that those 5 employees would go away, and that was only for a temporary 6 months. So that's why VRS said no, they would have to reapply to be reinstated. And the issue with that is that we only have the facility for the contract period, so we'd be back into some future time having the same issue we had at the end of the life of the last facility, where these people are worried about whether they're going to get a lump sum buyout in their VRS, or is the county board going to take it over? And unfortunately, in 5 years we don't know where, who's here and can't commit to but so much of that. So it's the cleanest way for the employees and to guarantee that we have good employees there that are willing to work, that are trained.
Any other questions, Mr. Cully?
I don't like the additional exposure that this brings.
Either
Mr.
way,
Emerson, do you have any insight into that? I didn't hear the first part of that.
They probably want to talk about that in closed session if you want about legal advice.
Either way, it comes back on us. We're either the authority or the county.
It and me, though.
We still do
Whatever.
whatever.
Yeah.
The authority's still running.
We're the authority. All right, gentlemen, any other discussion on this?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the proposal for the employees operating the Caroline Detention Center facility to become employees of Caroline County.
Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Thomas. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. 10. Tabs keep sticking together. Number 10 on our agenda is the first reading of a proposed amendment to Chapter 103. So who's taking this one? Hello.
Hello. Good evening.
Hello.
This is the first reading of a proposed amendment for Chapter 103 Taxation, Article 3, Agricultural, Horticultural, Forest, and Open Space Uses of the Code of Caroline County. I'm Mark Bassoon, Caroline County Commissioner of the Revenue, and I'm here tonight to ask the board to look into possibly amending this code for land use revalidation to go from annual revalidation to biannual revalidation. This is a result of legislation that was trying to be, it was introduced this year and was trying to be passed. I won't go into too many details, but it didn't succeed. They were trying to get it to where localities could not do annual revalidation, period. They wanted to stretch it out to where all localities would do it in a 6-year time frame. That was shut down pretty quick by the Commissioners Association as well as some other organizations. And they changed it, they amended it, and said that it would have to be done within every 6 years, so a locality could do it annually. The other reason for this change is budget-wise, it saves the county some money for my staff and office supplies and different things. And I have a 3-year expenditure. 2015-16, we spent $992.54. 16-17, $984.58. And last year, we did a little bit of changing. We started printing in-house, which dropped it dramatically to $678.72. So I'm trying to save some money overall in our budget with this. But ultimately, I think it'd be a big relief for the folks that participate in the program. So I'm here tonight to ask that the board consider changing the one word from annual to biannual.
And would you please clarify the question I asked you on the $10, just so that's out in the open? The $10 fee, is this part of the state code, correct?
The $10 fee, first and
It's a one-time.
foremost, is only for new applicants and different things like that. The approximate 1,700 folks that are in the program currently revalidate every year at no cost. The only time this changes is if it's sold and someone doesn't want to go into land use, or, if someone wants to continue it and it's in someone's new name, anything other than by will. And this apparently has been in there since it was adopted. Plus, I don't have the authority to add to it or change it or anything unless this board approves that. It would be an ordinance change that would have to come forward, just like tonight. I'm trying to see if you all would entertain that.
Right. I just wanted to clarify the general public that this is not anything new. That first application fee has always been in there.
And also, Madam Chair, last year we had 10 new applicants. This year we're on 6. I think we have one pending right now. It had the family subdivision. That makes 7.
And I certainly see no problem in doing biannually. I don't know too many farmers that don't try something for many years before they give up on it, crop-wise. And so if they're going to put their land in land use, they're going to keep it there because they don't want to pay. That's what they're there for.
Yeah.
And
if I might
that's a great
also,
rate.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
If I might add too, this is being proposed now to take effect, if approved, next year. Revalidation will go out as normal this year in September. We've actually started a little bit earlier than years past to give everyone enough time to get with their farmers and get with FSA and the property department so they can send back in the appropriate paperwork so we can get them in the system.
Mr. Forehand.
Mr. Bassoon, the language I'm looking at it says upon each application or renewal, so I'm reading that as every 2 years I got to send $10 in per parcel.
I actually just saw that as well, and I need to look at the state code section. If that is in state code, we cannot alter it. But renewal versus revalidation could be considered two different things. We don't charge anybody to renew or revalidate at this time.
And what was the hang up with every 6 years? What was the argument against
It would
that?
diminish the integrity of the program drastically.
Okay.
And that is across the board from the Commissioners Association, from every locality that every locality that offers this
They feel like
program.
it would get abused?
Yes.
Okay. And what method do we have right now to identify a parcel that's no longer being used for land use?
Right now, we don't have staff to go out and, I'm sorry, repeat the question?
What method or process do we have to know when something comes out of land use? For example, I have a 5-acre field that's got corn in it today. In September, I'm going to start building my house there. And it's no longer in land use. So
By way of sale or building permit or something that may come across from.
that's an automatic process?
Yes, it's an automatic process, whether it come by deed through the clerk of the court or planning and zoning.
Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Bassoon, You sent out 1,790 actual forms you mailed out. That's what's in your report. You don't have to check.
Yes, sir.
You don't have this with you now, I'm sure, but give me a ballpark estimate of what the average person saves by having his land in land use versus regular. And you don't have any idea now, but
As far as the numbers for Caroline County, I can certainly provide that, but I can give you an example.
that's fine.
Okay. Let's use timber at this time.
Okay.
I'm sorry, let's use agriculture.
Whatever you want to use.
Agriculture, you have to have up to a minimum 5 acres, and that's at $750 an acre. That's the assessment right now,
Right.
as it stands.
In land use.
In land use.
Right.
Out of land use, that same 5 acre parcel or field that someone is choosing not to be in the land use program, depending on where it's in the county, could be $1,500, it could be $2,500, it could be $4,000. So it's a significant savings across the board.
That's really my point. I've got 10 acres in land use. I'm paying $700 in taxes. I make it a subdivision. I'm paying $7,000 in taxes. Why am I complaining about a $10 fee? I mean,
While I've been in office, I've not had that. I've actually had folks come in and say, you need to raise it.
I mean, that's really the point. You're going to follow state code, and I'm not sure that we shouldn't charge $10 every year, period, just to be in land use.
That would be at the pleasure of this board.
I mean, you're saving hundreds of dollars, so I find it hard to see people complain about paying $10 when they're saving probably thousands. But you're going to check the code to see if that's required based on Mr. Forehand's question
Yes,
anyhow?
I need to check that one word, renewal versus revalidation, and I'll probably forward it to Ben first for validation.
Mr. Seeley?
Can I make a motion to move this to public hearing? I make a motion, we move this to public hearing for the change in language to biannual from annual.
From annual to biannual.
Or from annual to biennial, I'm sorry, thank you.
Do we want,
And if we,
what about the fee? How do we want to address that?
well, I would suggest that if we find that there's some difference, depending on what we find the code says, that we could adjust what we advertise for the public hearing.
Right. Because if the fee is state law,
I'm going to tell you that paying a fee going from the commissioner's office to the treasurer's office and waiting in line for somebody doing that, if we can fix that, I'd be for it, but I can tell you, having done that many times myself, for $10 is just, the time isn't worth it. Because going from there over to pay for something and then come back, I mean, if we want to change it, let's let the commissioner's office collect the $10 and be done with it. Because going back and forth is just mind-numbing sometimes, especially depending on the time of the year it is. If it's tax time, going to stand in that line to pay $10 is absolutely nuts. And that's my
Go in
real
with their
objection to that.
application. Can't they just send it in with their application?
Typically, I will tell you, they bring those applications, as I've talked to plenty of farmers that bring them, because the paperwork is easier to bring in than it is to mail, and they don't have to lose it. Putting something in the mail means forever it's gone.
okay, I think most of the people in this room, with the exception of a few, remember what it's like when we had to go to Inner Street from one building to another. So while you're inside in the hallway, that's a lot easier than what we had to do.
Not arguing, I'm just telling you that it's a chore.
Well,
have
let's
to walk
find out what the
outside to
state
pee, too.
code is. Go from there.
Walk outside the what?
I can get that back to you pretty quickly.
I have a motion to move this forward to public hearing with, do I have a second?
Did you second?
I'll second.
Forehead second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, so moved. And we will check on the state code regulations on that. for
Thank you all for
public
considering
hearing.
this on behalf of the citizens of Caroline
Thank you for
County.
the good idea, Mark. Appreciate it. Okay, that takes us to 11. This is the one where there's been a
We'd like to table this to a
request
work
to-
session, to a work session.
to a work session. There's been a request for that.
Can I make a motion, we table this to a work session?
Well, we got Mark, do you want to set a date?
Certainly.
Can I just play devil's advocate for a second? I mean, I'm
Yes.
sure I'll lose this. But I saw in one of the things where we had a meeting, I think the last one we were talking about, what was the one thing we just approved, the replacement plan or whatever we did? I saw in there was statistics where they met, there was a list of times that there was meetings. We've met with the volunteers before, correct? And some of the stuff I heard tonight, some of the complaints I heard tonight was the same stuff that we took up 2 years ago. I guess my question is, Mr. Cully, has there not been meetings? I mean, to me, if a county employee calls me to complain about something, and I know this may not make me popular, and volunteers, you guys do a great job, I'm not saying that. But if someone calls me with a complaint, an employee, I'm not going to get involved in that. I'm going to go right to Mr. Cully in the chain of command. To me, we have a fire chief who I think has done an excellent job. And there's a fire chief, we've hired that fire chief to be in charge, to do a job for the county, who I think has done an excellent job for the county. I'm going to vote against the meeting. I may be the only one. If we vote for it, I will be there. But I'm just stating my opinion. That's it.
Well,
Yes,
and
Mr. Cully.
We had a discussion about these things, and I thought it was longer than 5 minutes. And I thought the chief went through the truck plan, and we even talked about Port Royal's tanker directly, that if situation change, this is a CIP document that we're getting you to bless, and then obviously the marking. But just speaking to the CIP document, that's ongoing and been moving along for a number of years. Mr. Forehand, I think, is the one that asked, could we kind of put that CIP document of where the fleet was into this written document? I think it was months ago. It took us a while to get it done, of what the thought process was that's really behind the CIP. But the trucks that are listed, none of that's really changed. That's been a CIP. This is what we can afford to buy moving out on the CIP over the capital plan for a number of years. So the trucks that we're talking about deadline, and we don't really see a lot of use in them to be able to spend CIP dollars to replace those. We're not getting them out of the fleet until such time as they cost us a fortune to keep them on the road. So Port Royal's tanker could stay there another 10 years if it's not causing us a lot of issues, where Engine 1 is a very young truck, but is killing us in repair cost. The reserve engine, killing us in repair cost, and we came to you and you bought a conventional cab truck that we're going to put on for half the price of a new engine. So these things have been discussed and discussed. It's not set in stone that there'll never be another tanker in Port Royal. It's just right now, the chief has looked at it. We're not running that truck that much manpower-wise there. We've got an engine that carries water. We've got other tankers in service. So if a fire happens, everybody else is going to come. So this stuff has been discussed. We can certainly have another meeting in front of y'all, and y'all can decide what you want to do. The chief has made the recommendations based on what he feels that we can afford to buy. If you want to put more money in CIP and buy more trucks per year than what we are planning on, then you can substitute your judgment over top of what the chief has put forward. But these issues have been heard by the chief, and he even told Port Royal that night, we're not saying there's never going to be a truck coming. It's just not in the CIP at this juncture.
My real push to do this is that I've been promised the philosophy of the fire service overall. We talked about in January, it's now August. We still haven't sat down to talk about the philosophy of where the overall fire apparatus, fire prevention, fire volunteers is going. We've talked about having the meeting, but we haven't done it. Mr. Forehand and I talked about it several times since January, and we've never sat down with Chief Loftus to talk about the philosophy of where fire and rescue are going and why we're buying all these trucks the same, why we're buying trucks that have 500 gallons of water. I mean, one of the volunteers pointed out that the hose, if it was stretched out, 500 gallons of water would just fill the hose up. But that's what the philosophy is, but nobody's given anybody the overall plan and discussed it with us, and I think that's a fair thing to ask at this point. We've talked about it. I get a CIP, I get a whole bunch of other stuff that's in here, but we still haven't talked about the overall philosophy. And I think that needs to be part of that meeting that night as well, so everybody on the board understands what the philosophy of what fire and rescue is going to be, because we're buying stuff, and I'm not sure we understand where we're going with each thing that we're buying.
Well, the truck that we're putting 500 gallons of water is replacing a truck that has 0 gallons of water.
But
We're
we're
not taking
replacing
engine-
trucks that have 1,250 gallons of water with trucks that have 500 gallons of water.
No, 1,000.
Okay, it's still
No.
half as much.
No, 1,000. No, the only truck that's going to 500 gallons is a truck that had 0 gallons.
Right, but the intent is, looking at Bowling Green Station, after that squad unit's replaced, boom, one of those, the engines is going away too. So they'll be
No. Wagon 1 will not be purchased new. It'll be replaced. There'll always be 2 engines and the squad there. Just
So
not
it'll
going to be
3 apparatus.
three apparatus
with
there,
water.
but
Okay.
it won't be a new CIP purchase. It'll be a hand-me-down truck that'll stay there and run as a backup, because we don't get Wagon 1, Engine 1, and Squad 1 out at the same time.
Right, at least not right now, but
No.
we can always hope.
My hope would be that board members would meet with Chief Loftus before this work session to have a better understanding, and then we meet with the volunteers and even staff if they want to come and sit down and talk and listen and bang things around, and then we can change the CIP format if that is so desired. But I have always found the chief very willing to sit down and explain to me, who knows nothing about how fire works, as far as, what we need to do and what he's aiming for. So I have no trouble with doing a work session. We can set a date and send out invitations to the stations and get everybody here. But in the meantime, if this is a living, breathing, moving, changing document, we got to start somewhere.
I'd still like to make a motion that we postpone 11 to a meeting with the fire and rescue chiefs.
You just
And-
want the chiefs, you don't want the whole state.
I don't care who
You don't
wants
have
to come.
problems. I
The
think you need
board
to
and at
include
least the
volunteers.
chiefs.
Well, the event we had about a year and a half ago was a good event.
We promised it again, and we haven't. And I think we're at another milestone, and we need to now do that. If we're going to make this leap, we need to make sure we make it with everybody on board.
But I can meet tomorrow, with Chief Loftus.
I
if
can't
he-
meet
if he's
tomorrow or
around.
Thursday, but I can meet next week, and the only other date I can is on the 29th, right now.
So next week, he's off this week.
So we need a date for a work session, and then anybody that would like to meet with Chief Loftus in between, we can.
I mean, looking at the next agenda item, we need to get, we need to make a decision before September 1st. So it's, yeah, exactly.
I don't see why purchasing the vehicles as if they can do the CIP. Is it going to happen?
Mr. Cully, were you at those meetings with the volunteers and
I
the
was
fire
at
chief?
I was at the meeting in July. The command staff meeting in July they had moved to a telephone meeting every other month and an on-site meeting. So we moved it to an on-site meeting from a telephone meeting, and I was present, yes.
Okay, but I was just wondering if you said those same statements you just said to us in one of those meetings.
Which statement? I've said a lot.
Well, all of what you just said to us, did you say in those meetings? 'Cause
Probably
the reality
not.
was you were talking about what particular piece of equipment was going to stay and how they'd be replaced. Was that
The chief
conveyed?
said that. The chief
chief said
conveyed
that.
that. That's where I picked up a lot of that, yes.
Okay.
Like I said, I think we even got into the chief in a discussion with Chief Jenkins about specifically Port Royal's truck, the tanker, and that, yes, it could stay there until it was costing too much to to keep on the road, but that at the future, if there was growth in Port Royal, there was growth in the Port Royal Volunteer Fire Department, we would look at funding another tanker there, that it didn't mean it was forever. This is a look at from here to 2024, I think is the end date on, somewhere out there.
27.
These are the apparatus that we feel like we can fund, that we can get the board to fund moving forward, and they're the ones we are checking off.
Yeah, I was just trying to make sure that had been conveyed.
I thought it was conveyed. I mean, the other issue, is marking. We have bought Port Royal's truck and now Frog Level's truck, which you saw today, with the front door that says Caroline Fire and Rescue. That's who pulls up when you pull up.
Right.
That is the licensed agency when you pull up on the scene. Sparta's already marked that way. So we have 3 trucks of the 6 departments marked that way. It has Frog Level on the back door of the 4-door truck. It's got a frog on it somewhere. Port Royal. The front of the truck's got Port Royal. The front of the truck's got Frog Level. When it pulls up, the front of the Bowling Green truck's going to have Bowling Green.
Yeah, we discussed
so
that.
we're arguing about whether the doors stuff should be reversed. But to me, we are Caroline County Fire and Rescue. We're Bowling Green Station. We're Ladysmith Station. Ladysmith's new truck is going to be, you want me to go and tell it? What color is it going to be? It's going to be red.
Yeah.
The reality behind it is if someone's having a heart attack, I got to be honest with you, if I'm having a heart attack, call 911. I don't care if Port Royal shows up. I need help.
Correct.
I mean, and that's the bottom line. If Ladysmith doesn't show up because Ladysmith's closer and Ladysmith's on a call and Frog Level or Port Royal show up, I'm going to be happy someone shows up.
No, that's part of the package.
I
Is the
understand.
marking.
I understand
That
it's
is
part
what
of
they
the
want to
package.
talk
I
about, is
understand.
the marking.
Well,
That's
that
something
is-
you can
yeah.
decide tonight. If you
That's-
want to let the trucks be marked whatever they want to be marked.
No,
then-
my whole point that started this last 10 minutes, which I want to take back, was that just conveyed to everybody else? So yes, it was conveyed.
The marking was conveyed.
Yes,
You even talked
yes.
about it.
You
And we-
said yes, stop, you said yes. That's all I wanted to know.
So that takes us back. Hi, Mark, how are you?
Well, I have a motion and a second.
We have a motion. Who
And a
seconded
second.
it?
Clay did.
Clay seconded. All right. We have a motion and a second. Discussion. My discussion is on, if we do this, is it going to affect 12 and 13? Because there's a time issue with ordering these vehicles, correct?
Thirteen's not in question.
13's not in question. 13's not even on the table.
13 can be approved now. Okay, well, whatever, but my point is approved.
Ms. Long, if I may interject,
Yes.
the marking decision really needs to be made because the manufacturer that is making the first squad is at the point now where that lettering needs to be accomplished soon, and we need that final direction concerning what name appears on the door first. If not, I would hate to see us have to expend the funds to redo it.
I can only tell you my personal opinion is that we keep it as it is. Their names on the front, the names on the back, the names on the second door. We are all part of the same family. I don't care if you're aunts, cousins, or whatever.
Thing is,
That's
keeping
fine.
it the same.
Keep it the
for
same.
For the unit that's on order is opposite of was just ordered.
No, it's on order, just like all of you.
I'm saying keeping it the same.
Right.
What's in the station is different than what was outside.
Right, what's outside is the uniform, what Port Royal is, which is what Sparta is.
Right.
Probably.
Yes.
What the new, keep it as the new trucks are. Eventually, they're all going to be uniform, but they're still going to have each volunteer station or staff station's name on there. But everyone will know that it is also Caroline. And we will know, as soon as a few of them get on the road for a while, we'll know where to look for those names at. I saw the frog out here on this truck. He was really cute. So give us a date for a work session and we'll have
Well, we
to
haven't voted
continue.
yet, so
What, do you want to vote on a date? Okay. We have a motion and a second to have a work session to discuss the CIP and also squad replacement, number 12 on tonight's agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
So moved. Roll call. Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Mr. Black?
Nay.
Mr. Seeley?
Aye.
Mr. Forehand?
Aye.
And I'll vote nay. I've already talked to my guys.
The week of the
All right.
20th is fine for me, just to throw out dates.
Tuesdays are not good for me.
Not good for what? Oh, that's right.
Yep.
I'm just starting somewhere right.
Monday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Well, he's probably flying on Monday and flying back on Thursday, or flying Tuesday and coming back on Friday,
23rd?
is my guess.
We do or don't?
We don't have a meeting on the 28th. We could, the 28th is, or do Monday, the 27th.
Don't do Mondays.
We met with them last time for
If I get this food
2.5
off, I'm back
hours,
to
so.
work on Monday.
Excuse me?
I'm back to work on Mondays if I get this food off.
30th?
Nope, got a Baco meeting. What about the 22nd or the 23rd?
23rd is good.
23rd? 23rd, everybody?
6.
You're going to have volunteers, why don't you do 7 so they can make it?
6:30?
6:30 is fine. I'm just thinking of who's coming.
Okay. No dinner will be provided.
That's
so
fine.
Eat first, 6:30, yeah. And we'll meet in the EOC room, and Pam will take care, or you all figure out, Mr. Cully, who sends out notices, but all volunteers and staff are welcome. All right, so, remind me not to adjourn, but to recess. All right, that
Mr. Garnett,
brings-
can the decision wait till the 23rd?
Yes, the price increase on the
No,
squad.
I'm sorry, regarding the marking.
The marking, yes, I think it can.
'Cause we should have all of it in a nice bow on the 23rd.
So, very good.
'Cause whatever, I'm going to have all of my questions answered one way or another with the chief and be able to. I'll be good on the 23rd, by the 23rd. So.
When's the chief get back? Okay. All right, that takes us to item number 13.
Correct. And that's
It
just
was-
for the
it was
purchase
in
of
the-
an ambulance, correct?
I thought it was in the
Yes.
motion. All right, we're going to table item number 12.
Yep.
Correct? To the work session, and we are moving on to 13.
All right. You have in your packet a request for the chief to execute a purchase of replacement ambulance that replaces ambulance 16, which was taken out of service this spring due to mechanical issues that the cost exceeded the value. And he is requesting $207,433 to be approved. You'll note that that is higher than expected due to the steel costs from the manufacturer of the actual chassis. We are seeing that just as we did with the engine. And as the chief identified, he's not asking for a larger amount than the initial capital because he's going to go into reserve for the remaining items.
Do I have a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the purchase of the ambulance for $207,433
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Figured you'd stop me if anybody had discussion. Mr. Thomas, I think, seconded.
I seconded it.
Mr. Seeley. 14.
Thank you very much.
Did we vote?
Thank you, Mark.
Okay. Didn't remember that. I knew I voted, I just remember.
Number 14. What time are we on? When are we going? Okay. All right, number 10 is Mr. Cully.
14. You remember
I'm sorry.
we brought to you a number of months ago a proposal to increase the constitutional officers by 5%, and the board asked us to do a detailed study like using the same counties that were done as part of the pay study. We've already completed part of this for the registrar. If you remember, then there wasn't long after that, the registrar, the electoral board wrote you a letter, asked for a 5% per year for 4-year raise for the registrar. We looked at the same counties, and you've already dealt with the registrar part of this. It took us longer with the constitutional officers in that there's all sorts of different levels of certification depending on the office, which affects the comp board base salary. So we had trouble pulling that number away from some of the counties. They would give you what the constitutional officer making, but they didn't know what the supplement was, what the base was. So trying to get apples to apples comparison took us a number of months to work out. But as you can see from this chart, it's just like we did for the registrar. It has the same counties, and it comes up with years of experience, and then comp board salary, and what a local supplement is. And for instance, on the sheriffs, it also answers a question about whether they perform the animal control function or not. And so you can see that currently the sheriff was given a supplement of $28,000 for animal control, which means he has another $12,939 supplement, along with 14 years of experience on top of his comp board salary of $93,946. So you can see that it's hard to get but so much average when some of the counties are larger than we are, and their comp board salaries are significantly higher. So it does skew those. But you do come down, if you average all of it together, a yearly value of $2,441.82 seems to be about what everything is. It rolls along in a supplement. And so the same thing works on down the list. The treasurer supplements is about $922 a year across all those counties. And the commissioners is $853. My computer's slow, sorry. It's go yearly value across all the gray under the average. So come over column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th column. And if you follow a gray line from the word on the left of yearly value, that's the numbers I'm talking about. So that's what you take and this is basically what the spreadsheet calculated. So it looked at everybody's comp board salary, it looked at what their supplements were and their years of experience to come up with what it seems to be an average yearly supplement. They may not get it every year, but if you take the years of experience versus the supplement, that's what those are. And then the Commonwealth Attorneys is $21.50 and 93 cents, and the last one would be Clerk of Circuit Court was the lowest at $703. So that's what that yearly supplement did. And so then from that, then you look at what our current employees are making, and then you can run different calculations to see how that fit, which would be the comp board salary plus the yearly value plus years of service. So if you did that for the sheriff, that would work out to $128,131, which is his salary is higher than that by $6,000. Same thing if you did the treasurer. You take comp board salary, yearly value, years of service, it shows $108,358, which shows it's $7,000 low than the year. So it puts everybody all over the map. And so you can also do current salary plus yearly value in years of service, or you could do current salary times 5%, or the current salary plus 5%. So that's all those numbers give you all those different options, which are the same options we had. It's all down under Caroline. Go down under Caroline, look at the the wording on the left.
Mr. Cully, next time I want an instruction sheet with your graphs.
It's the same spreadsheet we use for the registrar. I guess after you work on it forever, it all runs together. Look at Caroline,
Caroline what?
right at the
Caroline
top, Caroline County on the sheriff.
County. Okay, got it.
And then you come over to the left and you see comp board plus yearly value plus years of service, and you go across all the gray to the number. Do you follow?
So you're saying that's
Okay,
what
so
the average
flip
should
that
be?
under difference.
Right, that's what, if you take his comp board salary, plus that yearly value that's calculated from creating from the averages of $2,441.82, plus his 14 years of experience, the salary would be $128,131. And it's the same for every comp board position. Or you can come down further and go, what would be the current salary plus a 5%? That would be $141,629. It's all in the same column. The columns to the left are all just data of how we got to the averages.
But the columns at the top, the salary, animal control, local supplement, years of experience, and the comp board salary
Correct.
is the same all the way across.
Correct.
So the salaries for every sheriff from Dinwiddie, Hanover, King George,
Correct.
King, is all across. So what they actually make is the very top
The
line.
very top one, correct.
So then the Caroline to average. So you're saying that all the salaries
Yeah,
averaged?
to average. But see, the average is skewed so much
I understand
by
because
Hanover.
how many years of service?
Well, one other thing with the sheriff, Prince George should not be included. They have a police department and a sheriff's department.
Well,
So
Caroline's got a...
Sure.
They do, but all he has is 8 employees.
Right.
Not-
Oh, the sheriff
Yeah, but
only
it's
has
a
8,
comp
because
board
here the
position.
Bowling Green only has 8, or has 3.
Yeah, but they have a police department that does law enforcement. They have a sheriff that does all the constitutional functions of the
okay.
sheriff's office. But anyway, we were asked to study the counties we studied in the...
Understood. I'm just saying for
Right. No, it's not...
one specific instance.
Yeah, it's not the same. And, but there again, Hanover doesn't, I mean, that salary's way above, so it skews those. But one thing you can work from is that yearly value, because that kind of averages everything together. Takes the low supplements, the high supplements, and all the years of service and kind
Next to
of
the
gets
last
them down.
line in the gray. Average plus yearly value, years of service.
No, it's the top one
It's
after
the
the
top
gray.
This number right here on every chart.
This
The average, that is the averaged yearly supplement for every one. And it's by taking all of this math and figuring it out by average.
one. No wonder this took you all so long.
Well, because we had to figure out what the comp board salaries were, and then we got that from the
That's-
comp
Jeff,
board, but then
that-
you need to know whether they were certified at this level or that level or whatever, depending on which constitutional officer it was. But anyway, you can see from working my way through that, I still came back to the same recommendation. It's been 2 years since these folks have had any kind of raise, so it works out to 2.5% a year to get a 5% raise at this juncture. So that seemed to be the easier math. You can adjust these based on, some people need a fair amount of raise, some may not need any raise if you look at just the chart that way. But
Ask a question. I mean, the numbers here, like if you look at any of the bottom number, whether it be the sheriff, treasurer, commissioner of revenue, that very bottom, so you go to the bottom line, it says current salary to average plus yearly value plus years of service. And then you have one number down there. What is that one number? Like on the sheriff, it says 4731. It says on the treasurer, it's in red, 10,266. What is that number?
that,
Yeah,
you
that's
took the
sitting-
current
it's
salary
sitting-
plus years of yearly value and years of service.
I mean,
I know what number he's asking for. Yeah.
what?
It's showing he's over, he's 4731 over, the treasurer's 10,000
Using
left.
that formula, he's overpaid by 4731.
Correct.
And so then then you're saying the treasurer's underpaid by 10,000?
Correct.
And the commissioner revenue is underpaid by 9,000?
Correct.
So if it's red, they're underpaid.
Correct. If you took their current salary plus the yearly value times years of service.
And so every single one of them, yeah, is pretty much underpaid.
If you use that calculation.
if you were to use that formula. I'm not recommending that formula.
And you said they got a raise 2 years ago. Was that the 2%? Or was that a comp board raise?
Well, the comp board raise rolls into our, because they're on our pay plan. So
But was it a-
they got a raise the last time the whole staff got a cost of living adjustment prior to
When the
the
county got a
salary
raise.
study.
So
Right.
it
They
wasn't-
didn't get anything in the salary study.
But it wasn't a comp board raise, because the comp board is the one who basically raises their base salary. We just have to supplement.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean,
But there hadn't been any adjustment to any of the constitutional officers' paychecks in 2 years.
I guess my question would be is, because how would have, who did we use, what was the company we used for the?
Springstead.
What's that?
Springstead.
How would Springstead deal with, like, what would their, based on what they say, what would the number, would they would, of these numbers, what were they going by? When we saw a deputy in the sheriff's department or a firefighter, what was the formula that they were using?
Their formula was somewhat different, because I don't think it dealt with years of experience. They set a low and a mid and a high and put everybody in grades and ranked them out. These are specific positions, so I don't think it was, we just were asked to look what everybody specifically was making, just like the registrar, which is what we did with that. So it was what they were specifically making and made a determination. And what the registrar one showed was real easy. That was almost a 5%. It was 4.9 something. So you ran it a 5%
But they were dealing with
raise.
specific positions. Did they not deal with, like, Major Mosher or people?
Some were graded that way, then everything was put on a scale, because you didn't do every position. and
Mr.
look-
Cully, they gave us 0.5% per year of service that we had employed with the department, no matter where you were. So
Right,
it-
once they put you on the scale.
once you put you on the scale, whatever your years of service were at the time they did the study is like 0.5%.
0.5% a year.
So for every 2 years, you got 1% increase.
Correct. That was to deal with compression.
That made it pretty simple.
Yeah, and that was to deal with compression.
Well, that's what, according to this, if you look at the cost of top of this, he's 18. No, look at the top. No. You don't look at, each position is different. Here is, that's the average. That's the average. That's under the average. That's over the average. That's under the average. That's under the average. Right. According to this,
You have 3 of the 5 underpaid.
You have Commissioner Revenue underpaid.
3 underpaid. 3 underpaid and 2 over, according to this.
Yeah. Where'd the two of them?
Maybe it's 1. I don't know, it's been so long since I looked at it. Yeah, 4 underpaid, 1 over. That's the one. The commissioner of revenue is okay. For this. Oh, he's 900, he's $841 short. I don't either, that's why I just recommend, that's why I did 5% recommendation.
Well,
Oh, you think we have to? Okay. Yeah, the commissioners, but see, this is where, look, total salary of the commissioner is 79. If you do the formula, comp board plus yearly value plus years of service, he should be at 141 over. Over. No, this is over on this one. This is under. That's over. So there's, no, don't worry about that. That was if you took current service salary to average and the yearly value. Only look at comp board plus yearly value plus years of service. Yeah, the line that you really should study is comp board plus yearly value plus years of service, which is the very first line under the blue line. It says difference, whatever, that number. Oh,
Even if we go with that, and I don't disagree with that, even if we go with that, have they had any sort of COLA?
No, I don't think they've had anything in 2 years. Two of them are sitting out there. They would have to answer whether that, but I don't think there's been any adjustment to their salaries in 2 years.
No, there hasn't been, as far as that's concerned. But the thing that I want to point out to the board is the animal control. That's what's throwing my numbers completely haywire the other way. And that was something that we took over, or I took over, so the county did not have to deal with it anymore. So you take away what I'm supplemented for that, and it changes all your numbers tremendously.
Yeah, but you really can't take that away because you got the same thing in other counties. So
No,
don't, I'm just saying, Sheriff, don't start screwing with the numbers because they mess up all the numbers all the way across.
Jeff, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is the responsibilities. And when you look at it, does Hanover have animal control? No. Does King George have it? Yes, but yet Mr. Parton's unable to get that because they didn't give it to them. I only pointed out the fact if you took out what my animal control was, it would change your numbers. That's my statement.
Yeah, but you're getting it. It's a supplement. It's a supplement that's in your salary that's been there. Don't go there.
No, I understand
I'm
that.
just saying, don't go there. Leave it alone.
Throw
I
this
heard you, Mr.
wonderful
Siegel.
graph all over.
I'm just,
I heard you.
Would do 5 more. Now, have you? You're a number person.
I think if you want to look at the chart, the key thing to compare apples to apples is comp board plus yearly value plus years of service. Plus years of service.
Which is the first line.
The
under
first
the
line under
difference
yearly
of
value.
service.
So it's right there. Yeah, times years of service, sorry, yeah, so you get credit for each year of service. You take the yearly value times years of service, so if you got 10 years and you take that, it'd be,
Yeah, it's these.
so if they all came out about the same, it'd be easy, but they're all over the map. Yeah, that's what we struggle with, they're all over the map. 3 are low, 2 are high.
can I make a motion, we just table this till we figure this out? Because
I
we're
would
going to
love
sit here
that.
all night and try to figure this out. We're not going to tonight.
I think it has to be close.
Mr. Black,
Sorry.
you have a question? I thought you were signaling.
No, I just think it tied in with what we were discussing earlier too, though.
All right, so is it the board's, do you all want to table this to our next meeting?
We're not going to solve this tonight. It's 10 after 10. We're no further than we were at 10 o'clock. I make a motion to table until we figure that, it doesn't have to, we've all got to figure this out. So until that, you have a
And I really
consensus
did
and
look
figure it
at
out.
this, and I thought I understood it, but obviously I did not understand the graph just
That's too
like I
much
thought it
information.
was.
Somebody want a second?
So I have a motion to table. Do I have a second?
Table till when?
Until we get it figured out.
to our
Well,
next
I mean,
meeting?
that's,
I don't know the answer to that right this second.
so we meet again in September?
Oh, yeah, we meet in September
I would
twice.
say, yeah, then I would say till September then.
Table it to our next meeting, it's the first meeting of September. All right, I have a motion and a second. Mr. Black?
Yes, fine.
Second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. I'm sorry to keep you all waiting here so long, but we will definitely look at this and try to understand it. All right, Charlie, book me your appointment. With your calculator. All right. All right.
Stick to that one I told you. It shows who's overpaid and who's underpaid.
But I don't know how you
I don't know how you fix it. Well, I don't either, but I mean, that's what the data shows.
All right, that takes us to number 15. And there's not a lot on this. Do we have any new information? I know we're trying to get information on the insurance benefits for retired employees and some financials there, which hopefully
Can
we'll
we,
understand.
can we table this too, now that
Oh,
we've
you want
all
to
read
just
it?
talk about it a little bit? Oh, I got a
Sure.
little bit. I got a little bit, so you can. And if
Okay.
you like the last spreadsheet, this one here, I put
That's what I was
tape
afraid
to
of.
tape it together. So I've just kept it over here for
I'm
my
gonna buy
own
the
use.
magnifying glass also. Okay.
Well, the only way to look at it, you have to take it out 24 years. I mean, you can't. It's
How much does it cost?
worst case scenario, which I don't believe would happen, but could, because you have to look at who's eligible. Currently, we have 44 employees that would be eligible if you look at employees that currently have 15 years with Caroline County. If you took those 44 over 24 years that it would take to wash them out as they work their way from now to retirement, and put a 3% increase on the cost of insurance. And I have any way of knowing where that's going, so I can move that number down if you like, or up, or whatever. But 3%, that's $2,164,089 over the life of that. It averages 9.98 retirees, and don't ask me how I get 9.8 of a retiree, but anyway, it averages that over the years of the program. And that's not totally true, because people with 10 years of service are going to start falling into those out years too. So it's where do you stop? So I just had to draw a line at 15. But at those out years in 20, 24, 20, somebody with 10 years of service would also be reaching retirement level at 30 years. So it's not a total all-in cost. It's just what it would cost you with employees that currently are here that have worked already their first 15 years. So that it averages over that 24 years about $90,170. The first year will not be that. The second year will not be that. The third year. But it ramps up to where you have a bunch of eligible employees that can be on this. So that's worst case. I don't believe it would be that. Obviously, I don't think all of the 44 eligible employees will make it to retirement here. One of the data points that we're looking for is to try to figure out who has retired from here. But we were smaller, so you got to factor that too. We're the largest than we've ever been, so we'll obviously be going up. But that is, and it's the names of everybody, their years of service, their age, and some people will not qualify for the benefit because they'll reach Medicare before they can retire. So you see all these red numbers in here; those are not even in the chart. But it's a significant number of people with 15 years already, and there's a bunch beyond that with 14.9 that just missed the cutoff. I mean, I think to do a true study, you'd have to, kind of look at that, who's got even 10 years of service to try to figure that out. But it is a rather large number. It's not a lot to start with. In the first year, about $12,000 worth of cost of the persons that are eligible, which would be 2 people actually retired next year. The next year that jumps, it could be 4 that are eligible, jumps up to about $25,000. By 2021, it becomes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 eligible. The cost jumps up to $39,000. And then in 2022, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 become eligible. Are they all going to retire? I hope not, because some of them work for me. But they become eligible, and you cannot not look at that when you've made that a benefit that somebody may decide that they're going to have insurance at a reduced rate that they may take it. But anyway.
Quick question, Mr. Conway, because I was talking about this whole thing with Major Mosier, and we were discussing 25 years versus 30 years and whatnot. But I understand the school system uses 5 years
Oh, yeah,
as their retirement number.
let me give you the surrounding things that we found. All right, the schools pay the same employer contribution for a retiree as an active employee on the coverage they elect up to age 65. Employees must be employed a minimum of 5 consecutive years at the time of retirement, and must be of retirement age or eligible for retirement benefits under the retirement system. Part-time employees under contract eligible at applicable rate. FY19 cost $260,000. Orange County does not do it. King George County does not do it.
Who set that policy was the school board employment policy, right?
School board.
But if you stop and think about that for a second, if you look at all the school employees that are there, I mean, when you stop and think about it, $260,000, and how many school employees are there in Caroline County? It's a huge number of employees with
Correct.
teachers and so forth, and it's, I mean, $260,000, I thought it would be, that's actually not that bad, I mean, considering how many employees that they have.
Yeah, I don't know how many employees actually, one number
That's
we
a
don't
lot
know
of
is how many they
employees.
have
So
on
there's
there
no
that's
way,
costing it.
there's just no way it could cost us that much.
But they had
I'm not saying it is. I'm saying that's worst case if everybody retired.
right, and they've had a few teachers that are there 30 years. Well, I know a couple of them that have been there 30 years. But even that's after 5 years.
Correct.
So if ours was 25 years, then, well, he was saying 25 or 30. He's trying to retain some folks. But they have, and I'm just doing a math progression. They have 3-4 times the number of employees we have, right? 4 times the number of employees. So at that, and they're going to have,
400. I think they have 400 and something.
they got 400 and some, we got 100 and some.
No, they have 235 full-time.
Okay. We're going to go for that smaller government thing soon. But anyhow, if they have double the employees, and they have a much more liberal policy, it's going to be hard for us to get up to that number.
They're at 260, and I don't have any month, any year on my chart. I get up to in 2032, and that's the cost of health insurance going up, so you'd have to figure that on theirs. Our max number at 154. So, and that's a long way off at 2032, so no telling what their number would be either. And that's a max. That's if everybody eligible takes it. I can't read a crystal ball as to half would take it. If half take it, you can drop your number, you can drop your number off. So, I don't want to
How
tell
many,
you.
just out of curiosity, in the next, say, 5 years, how many employees would be eligible at 30?
5 years, 19, 21, 22, 23. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 become eligible that year, not counting the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 the year before, if they didn't retire, would be into that year. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 the year before that, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 before that. So nobody's retired for the next 5 years. It would be a pile of people all at one time. But I assume some of these people are probably going to retire.
And you've got the policies, they have to have been in Caroline
30 years.
30 years consecutive.
Well, not consecutive.
No,
30 years with
of service.
Right.
But you also drop them off when they get to
65.
Medicare.
And I do. That drop. You'll see them. If you could see my chart, you'd see where this particular person only gets the benefit 4 years.
So theoretically,
this person gets it 2 years because by the time they're eligible, they're going to roll into, and some of that's months. That so I had to just make it a year's worth of calculation.
But I mean, theoretically, you've got people that are going to retire. You got a staff with like 4 60-year-olds. So if they all retired at 65,
they wouldn't be eligible.
They wouldn't be eligible. But if they start breaking it up, then they would start hitting you. But they'd only hit you for a year, 2, 3,
Correct.
4 years.
And this takes that into account. That math is in here.
It may sound a little strange, but that's a retainment issue, and B, it's an added benefit because if I'm 62 and I can retire,
and have your health insurance.
I can have health insurance, and I won't have to pay a COBRA or something like
You
that
pay the full amount now.
before I get to Medicare or Medicaid.
Medicare.
Right. They would still be
Medicare,
paying
yeah, Medicare.
their share of the insurance.
So it's kind of a win-win. How many other counties do that?
That's what I was getting to.
Oh, you got a whole
Orange
bunch.
does not, King George does not. Louisa allows retirees to remain on county plan until age 65 with no county contribution toward the cost, same as Caroline. City of Fredericksburg pays full cost for employee with at least 10 years of service until age 65. And then Hanover has this whole thing, depending on how many years of service, if you've been there the most years that they credit, it's like $285 you get on up through. And then Hanover also does a Medicare supplement for their retirees, so anybody over 65 can get a supplement through their health insurance. The employee has to pay it, but through their, so they have theirs is a whole 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, a very small print of what Hanover does. But that's what we've been able to find so far of what everybody does.
Well, I'm sure it'd be a good recruiting tool and sounds like a good benefit, but I think we need some more study on it. I didn't think we had public comment. What you need?
Well, Madam Chairman, members of the board, I understand you're looking at the other end of the spectrum. I'm looking at the beginning of the spectrum. This is a tremendous retention tool for our employees. You know, law enforcement's in crisis. I can tell you right now that over the last 100 years, there's been 7 people that retired from the sheriff's office, and only 5 of those would have been eligible for this benefit that I know of, and I've done the research. Fire and Rescue's had absolutely no one retire from Fire and Rescue that would be eligible for this benefit. The only reason I asked for 30 years is because I thought that's what the school had. And until recently, it just was found out that it's a 5-year program. I think if we're going to look at treating county employees the same as across the board, is that, you know, I would hope that we would be treated the same as the school employees. We're all county employees. We're all paid by the state and then supplemented by the county. I have a lot of constituents that are in favor of this. It's a tremendous tool to retain officers. Right now, we have seasoned veteran officers at the sheriff's office that are teaching the younger officers, and you need that kind of leadership and guidance. And when you take away your senior staff for other reasons, we've already established through what Sheriff has told you is we're a training ground for other facilities because of pay. We've got to have something to keep them here. And this is a tremendous tool to be able to do that. And I realize the back end of it, there are going to be people that will retire.
We understand. We're taking it seriously,
Yeah.
but we're not making a vote tonight.
I'm not
There's
asking
way
you-
too much
It's a lot of information to
take
consider.
out, and we don't, so,
Right. And-
so we understand.
Yes, ma'am.
And we think it's a good thing to work at. We just have to get there.
I think
So,
25 years would be a nice, even number.
You want to throw the dice? All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Let's move on to 16. It's getting late, informational, and we will table this until we have more information from the county. We'll table 15 until the county staff comes back with more detail. Informational items. I take Mr. Underwood has some scheduling issues.
Mr. Underwood called and said, obviously, he could not be here at tonight's meeting, nor could he make any Tuesday nights, I'm pretty sure in August or September, and asked would the board consider moving the September 11th meeting to the 10th and the September 25th meeting to the 24th. Both are Monday nights. And staff doesn't have any issue. We don't have any public hearing issues or any advertisement issues with those dates.
My issue is
You work.
if I get out of this boot, which hopefully I will be
Somebody
by
stomp
that
on her
time.
foot.
Yeah, I'll be at work until 6, so, or 6:30. So it doesn't work for me. We can move it the other way to Wednesday or Thursday.
No, he didn't. He just said Tuesday nights didn't work. Monday nights would work. He may be very well gone Tuesday and Wednesday, being out of town, and is here on Mondays. We have the work session that you've scheduled for.
The 23rd of August.
Do you want us to try to find out? We can have Pam work with Mr. Underwood and see if we can come up with if he can do Wednesday, and then we can schedule those next week. Will that be feasible then? Yeah, Wednesday.
I think you got 23rd, and I think 23rd is 23rd this
No,
week.
I'm saying to try to find out what Mr. Underwood's
Oh,
schedule
for
is.
like a Wednesday night instead
Right.
of a Monday.
Now, I'm not talking about changing that. I'm talking about if we don't set this meetings now, we only really have one more opportunity to change them, would be the 23rd. If we could find out, because that's what he asked me for, and I didn't say what other days are you available. He asked, could they move them to Monday?
And
And
we
I said,
really
okay, I'll
can't
ask.
change September 25th, that's the 50-mile
I think Pam's already working with them about,
Ms. Long,
right, we haven't, yeah.
could you do like the 10th and the 24th at a later time?
He's out of town.
No,
It's
the
not
10th
like
and the
he's
20th.
here.
No,
The Mondays, can we do Monday
Mondays.
late?
Monday at a later time, like instead of being 6 o'clock, you start at 6:30 or 7.
Or we just move the 11th, 25th where it is.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, if we move the 11th to the 10th, even though that doesn't help Nancy.
But Mr. Forehand could chair until I got here.
But
And then
later
leave the
time.
25th where it is, because that's the 50-mile meal, and I know they've got to do preparation, so they probably want a Tuesday.
So we could
What are the
do
chances you'll be out of the boot by the 10th?
Pretty good. I'm hoping 2 more weeks.
Well, if you keep walking on this grass like you did this evening, the other foot will be in one.
So, I mean, that's fine. Just, you'll still have a quorum.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have any public hearings coming up. If you want to do 7 o'clock on the 10th, and then keep the 25th the same. I hate moving meetings
Oh,
because it
yeah.
throws off the public.
Yeah, the 10th is out for me. I forgot about that.
Why is the 10th?
I can't say the 10th is out.
Okay. Kathy's back there shaking her head. She must have sent you a text.
Are you getting a dog that night?
No.
Oh, goody, a dog.
No.
You're getting
no,
a
no.
dog.
Oh,
I see
nice.
Kathy
That's
going,
really,
yeah.
no wonder she's so happy.
Yeah, no.
All right. How
Wait till I
about,
miss it.
well, let's find out if the 12th and the 13th work. Be okay.
Why now?
How about the 12th or the 13th?
We don't know whether he's going to be here for those who'd be moving it for no reason
All
at
right.
that juncture. If he
Well,
did,
find out and let's decide on the
decide next Thursday,
23rd.
the 23rd. So put that as an
Okay.
agenda item for the 23rd for us. I know you won't be there, but we got to do that.
All right, we're going to have to decide on the 23rd, gentlemen.
But we're going to leave the 20,
But we're going to leave the
Fifth.
25th.
We're going
We
to leave the 25th where it is, and we're going to look at, you're going to look at the 12th or the 13th?
Yep.
Okay, those look good for,
well, right now, I haven't moved it, so we're going to look and see if we can move it to the 12th or the 13th after we can touch base with Mr. Underwood.
If not, you'll have to go with either leave it in or move it into the 10th, and being short, Mr. Black instead of Mr. Underwood.
That's how
All
I'm going
right.
to start moving meetings around and start losing
I
other
know.
members. Can't do it this day.
I don't
can't
like
do
it.
We never moved it.
Okay. Capital projects update.
I do have, somebody has got to tell me,
I talked to them during the break, we're going to pull a meeting together, and we're going to wash out why we've got these differences in their system and our system, and get to the bottom of it, and bring it back to you by the September meeting. Even if we can't agree, we're going to show you what we got, and they can show you what they've got. That's the best I can do. But we're
because
gonna
I'm going
wash
to,
that
our
out.
numbers are what matter to me, not theirs, because they paid for construction out of their operation budget, and I can't help that.
Yeah, I can't figure that all out. I think that's where we can't figure it all out.
And I don't care if that's what their
I know what we
excuse
paid
is.
to the bond, because we got a draw from the architect to the contractor, paperwork signed off that we had to pull the money down from the bank. So I know everything we paid on the bonds. It's all this other ancillary money that they had that we are having some disagreements on. But we will get that. We've made it a priority. We will get that to you.
Because this,
At least with what we
we have been stuck here for months now,
correct.
and they give me the same answer every time, that all the bond money is gone, but that's not what our book shows. And and if you look at the other school, they're over on that budget.
Right, they were over on Madison. But that was established by us, not necessarily by them. So that was just the way Fran set it up as an accounting issue for one school and the other. And all they were working on is they hit 25 million, and that's as long as they didn't go over that, that's all they were worried about.
Do we add in this extra million now in the project?
Not in that line item, because that was the bond accounts.
Well, how do we account for the extra million?
We've got it in spreadsheets of what exactly has been drawn down.
So you're going to send us all that too,
We're
since
gonna
we,
get it all together.
because I'm tired of fighting over the 450 column or the 550 column and the 100 and, they want to spend 433 on operational things that shouldn't be, and,
Okay.
I mean, that's
Can
got
we
to
trash
stop.
all that over next, when we get the
We'll get you
figures?
the figures.
All right, we also need to, what's this award of Rappahannock Co-op grant to fire and rescue? Do we have
These
to do
are
anything on that?
information.
On
No, that's information.
They just
That's
received
information,
one?
someone to let you know that that's what they were doing with it.
And how about a work session for the master water plan? When do y'all want to do that?
We need to do that after we get our results from closed session, right?
Correct, yeah, we don't need that yet.
Okay, all right. All righty, any closing comments? I've got a meeting with AP Hill September the 12th with all the other counties. If anybody has anything they want on the agenda. And I'll send some information on a report they sent me.
So we're going to recess to the 23rd
in
at
EOC.
6:30
At
EOC.
EOC.
We have a motion.
That's
to
my motion.
recess.
Closing comment, Madam Chair? Since we're not, well, we are, or may or may not meet on September 11th. Just wanted to let the board know that there was a September 11th flag donated to the county.
Yes.
That we had intended to put in the visitor center.
Right.
And that has been relocated to the hallway here in the community center with the hopes of more citizens of the county would be able to see it.
Great, I'm glad it's finally up someplace for Brock.
So it's up here, and thanks staff for taking care of that. I think Mr. Parton was on the case. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other closing board comments? Okay, if not, we have a motion on the floor to recess until the
23rd.
until the 23rd at 6:30 in the EOC room. Do I have a second? I have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, we are recessed.